This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Everybody ready to drop the puck on the Stanley Cup Playoffs or what? What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily Playoff Edition. As the Stanley Cup Playoffs get going tonight, we'll have to wait one more night for the Winnipeg Jets to get at it with the Vegas Golden Knights. But we are going to be all over it today. Cannot wait for this one. Jeff Hamilton's going to join us with his thoughts on the upcoming playoff series. We'll also go down to Las Vegas and catch up with our old pal Gary Lawless for the latest on the home team. The Vegas Golden Knights will be hosting the Winnipeg Jets tomorrow. Should be a lot of fun. We've got a lot to get to before we bring in our guests. Hearing from the likes of Rick Bowness, Nikolai Ehlers, Connor Hellebuyck, Josh Morrissey, Adam Lowry, and more. And a little later on, we'll fire up the Coolbet Lines. Got a couple exclusives for the first round, one for tonight's games as well, and get our selections on the first round series in the National Hockey League. So it should be great. Hey, shout out to everyone that enjoyed the shows last week from Toronto. Big thanks to Princess Auto for a great week. That entire curling event was so much fun. And it was great to get away for a couple days. It was great to see a couple Blue Jays games. But I am so fired up to be back here in Winnipeg getting ready for playoff hockey and, of course, to do the show. So welcome to everyone. I know there's been a lot of new people finding the channel as of late. If you are here, welcome. Great to have you all with us. We're going to be all over the National Hockey League playoffs, specifically the Winnipeg Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights. Hit that red subscribe button and join us Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. Central, right here on WST. And if you have found us on YouTube, the audio edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk, always available in and around 3:30 Central, just in time for your drive home. So make sure to fire up Winnipeg Sports Talk wherever you get your favorite podcasts and subscribe. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, of course, a big thanks I mentioned to Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk and making last week's shows in Toronto happen. Thanks to our friends at Coolbet. Did get a chance to go to one of the games with my pals from Coolbet, and we've got a lot coming on at the end of the program with the Coolbet Lines today. Also want to thank the sponsors that make this show happen every day. Modern Men Barbershop, Aquatech, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Vita Health, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group. DQ Nick actually down in Vegas getting ready to throw the whites on for tomorrow night's game one of the series. Consolidated Supply, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Aikens Lake, and our great friends at Breezy Bend Country Club. We want to golf. We don't want the Jets golfing anytime soon, though. We'll talk about that as well with everything happening in and around the league. Let's get to it. Welcome to everyone with us in chat right now. Hope you had a great weekend. Michael Remis, let's get it on. How are you? How was your weekend? Are you ready to go for playoff week number one here on WST?
I'm so ready for playoffs. I cannot wait to have some games that are meaningful. We don't have this Friday preseason action where it's neither a must-win or a can't lose. It's just a regular game.
We can't really complain about that. There was one game of 82 that didn't mean anything for the Winnipeg Jets. And, it's funny, and I know this will be a common theme that we'll get back to, but I really do think that what the Jets had to go through to get themselves out of the hole that they dug for themselves will actually bode them quite well going into game number one tomorrow night. Because to be perfectly honest, this team, as Rick Bowness said, has been playing playoff games for the better part of a month. Was nice to get Connor Hellebuyck at least one night off before the playoffs after going 13 in a row. But overall, this team really has, I think, sort of been hardened for the playoffs, unlike a lot of teams that have pretty much known what their situation was and have just been waiting to get the postseason started.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that they had the schedule worked out really well for them, I thought. Just with the limited number of back-to-backs the last couple of weeks, and then you finish on Tuesday against the Wild, you've clinched, and then you can kind of relax. And we talked about Hellebuck's workload. He got some time off. Everyone's been able to heal, especially Nikolai Ehlers, and we're going to get to him. So I think the Jets, health-wise, they're in a really good spot here heading into Vegas, and you have to be feeling good about your game because you've basically been playing playoff games here for the last 6 weeks, and you like to hope that they're able to continue it and go up against Vegas. So that we'll find out tomorrow. But I'm enjoying this weekend here of speculation, practicing, talking to the media. We have all that stuff. So very, very exciting times. And, we also have the home games too. This is just the road games. The home games, I think, are going to be another level next weekend.
Yeah, I love the starting on the road, to be honest. I mean, I think the Jets, and if they're able to get one of the first two on the road, I mean, what this city is going to be like coming into Saturday, I think is going to be special. And let's face it, this fan base needs it, this organization needs it, and it's time to come together. And listen, the vibes in the chat are amazing. And listen, I know we've talked a lot about, and there's been a lot of talk about things other than hockey right now. The season ticket campaign that rubbed some people the wrong way. All of that. This is time to talk about the puck. And Maul, shout out to Maul. Maul just dropped in the chat. No trolling. This is real hockey time. We want the cup.
That was the biggest troll
He's ready.
by Maul. He's never. Don't acknowledge.
No.
Everything he's wrote is a troll. That is a troll.
No. Listen, I'm taking everyone at face value.
No,
I
that's
think
a troll.
It's time to put differences aside.
No.
And get ready on dropping the puck.
This guy's never wrote a serious comment in the chat ever. Sorry.
Hey. Well, you know what? That's the thing. It's playoff time. This is not regular season screwing around in the chat time. This is this everyone means business right now. But listen, we are going to focus in on the Jets in a minute, obviously, and hear from the coach and more. First things first, right off the bat, Jets have practiced this morning, and as you noted on Twitter, Reem, we thought that this would be 2 hours of will Nikolai Ehlers play? Will Nikolai Ehlers not play? I'd imagine we'll get some confirmation from Rick Bowness when he speaks afterwards. But Nikolai Ehlers was out there in a full contact jersey, skating along with Wheeler and Nemetsnikov. And that is the best news Winnipeg Jets and their fans could hear right now because, with the way the first line has been loaded up, the way the Lowry line has been so important, Nikolai Ehlers is the driver of that second line. And I talked on whatever it was Thursday or Friday about the progression of Ehlers as a playoff player from, a real struggle the first year to a guy that has been very, very important in any limited success the Jets have had. And even when they've been losing one of their best players, this is an incredible opportunity for Ehlers. And not to mention the fact that another thing we talked about for a long time that actually happened, Nikolai Ehlers getting back on PP1 and his emergence in that spot on the power play was a big reason why it got going and got a little productive right now. So some great news to start off Monday with positive indications about Nikolai Ehlers' availability for Game 1.
Yeah, well, okay, so on Saturday, he said that he was in, but he didn't practice. And then yesterday, he didn't practice also. And Rick Bowness would say he was day to day. And then today, he is on the ice. And I mean, we posted a video on the weekend, Can the Jets Upset the Golden Knights? Check that on our channel if you missed it. It's from Friday's show, you and Scott Billick discussing. And a lot of the comments, well, a lot of it depends on if Nikolai Ehlers is healthy because he makes that second line go or... it could even be the third line when you look at minutes. I mean, that Lowry, Appleton, Niederreiter line is going to play a big role too. But Ehlers, he's the driver with Nemestikov and Wheeler, and they need him to produce that secondary scoring. So if a huge loss if he wouldn't play, but I would think that he's going to go now that he's practiced. If he didn't practice today, probably not feeling as good. But that was big news seeing that.
Well, one guy that didn't practice, though, that does concern me somewhat is our guy Kevin Stenlund. Stenlund was not out there today. And I would imagine, and again, I'm not sure when he got hurt in that final game of the year. Of course, he scored and played a lot more than he normally did with the guys that were out of the lineup. He's been a very, very important player for this team. One of the best and most reliable face-off guys, a guy that's done a lot of penalty killing work. And to be honest, I thought a big part of a fourth line that's really held their own for the most part over the last little while, along with Morgan Barron now being on that line and being such an effective player, and even Menelainen since he's returned in the Calgary game. It looks like the Gus bus is going to be in, Remo. And again, we'll talk more about this coming up a little bit later on. And of course, Jeff and Mike and Marat will pop on over the next 3 days from Vegas, where they're all covering the series for their respective outlets. It's been a while since Gus has been in the lineup. Obviously, he got into the final game of the year. What an opportunity if Stenlund cannot go for Gustafsson to pop in. Listen, he's never going to be a guy that does a ton offensively. Of course, he went, 45 games this year, didn't score a goal. This is a big chance for Gustafsson if he does get in to show that he is built for the two-way game, the grind of playoff hockey. And I will be interested to see what that does to the fourth line, although I think we sort of know that those top three lines will be what Rick Bowness really relies on for the majority of the ice time when the puck gets going in game number one.
Yeah, we know Gustafsson is a good, reliable defensive player, but I don't know if we can call him a two-way player. He's got 0 goals in 46 games, but what a story it would be if he could, the fourth line could be the hero. Like we keep hearing, who's going to be the John Drewster here. What if Gus Bus steps in the lineup after not playing for a while and scores his first of the season? And so it'll be reminding me of like the Party Dangle goal versus Anaheim. No, they did lose that game, but there's going to be some like the Joe Morrow goal against Minnesota. Some player, like we still talk about Joe Morrow. He hasn't played in the league for years. I don't know if he played too much after his time with the Jets, but there's going to be some goal that's going to become iconic. And could it be Gus Bus stepping in here on the fourth line?
It is funny that you mentioned that. I'm not sure whether we can go two-way player at this point. He's very good in his own end. That much we know. One bird says, does Gus have any offense at all? Well, hopefully he's been saving it for the playoffs if he does get in. But it is playoff hockey. And as you mentioned, Adam Party, Joe Morrow, there's been some pretty big Winnipeg Jet 2.0 playoff goals scored by very unlikely individuals. And listen, I'd imagine that David Gustafsson would be one of those individuals if he does get into the lineup, considering the lack of success he's had scoring really during his time here in Winnipeg. But it's a big, big chance for him to go in and, show to Rick Bowness and the organization that he's there if needed. Although I really do think that Kevin Stenlund, with the way that he's played since he was recalled earlier from the Manitoba Mooses, cemented himself as an important player in the top 12. And if he's able to go, he will be in there. Listen, just before we get to the Jets, there is a bunch of NHL news happening. And I mean, we're going to really be focusing exclusively on the 16 teams that are, playing for the Cup, as opposed to the 16 that are getting ready for the draft lottery. But there was a couple of announcements today, including one in Calgary, Reem, that Brad Treleving, who had that incredible summer last year, as you sort of said, turning chicken bleep into chicken salad with the acquisitions of Uyghur and Huberdeau after losing Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk. The season did not go the way the Calgary Flames wanted. He was on an expiring deal, and the Flames and Treleving have, quote, mutually parted ways. He will not be the general manager of the Calgary Flames anymore. Been on the job for 9 years. Don Maloney has been promoted to the president of hockey operations and the interim GM. So, more change potentially come to the Calgary Flames after such a wild offseason last year that, of course, Treleving was in charge for.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that he was the one to go, because I thought the first one to go would be the coach, because it seemed to be so many differences between him and Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau, the guys they brought in. But Frank Saravelli tweeted, early indication is that Darryl Sutter will remain as the Flames head coach, but he wrote, for now. And so he says, fair to say that played a role on whether or not Treleving would remain at his post. So you had Treleving made these, moves that are going to affect the Flames for so many years. The Uyghur extension, Huberdeau extension.
Yeah, those kick in this year. They haven't even had 1 year on them yet.
And signing Nazem Kadri. You let him do those moves and then fire him. So I find that interesting. And look, the Flames were so good last year. I thought he navigated it well, but maybe signing those guys to extensions rather than trying to rebuild right away and trading them at the deadline. Maybe you could have could have done that. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, it's all hindsight right now. We thought, we had said in the summer, are the Flames better this year than last year? And the answer
There
to
was
that,
a lot of people that thought that the answer to that was yes.
And to be fair to the Flames, like they were it was such a weird season, but they had 17 overtime losses. Like they're right on the play line. So I'd expect them to be close again next year, but we'll have to see, what happens with the coach. And you have to think Huberdeau bounces back. He went from 115 points to 55 points, and he was playing. Couldn't really find chemistry with all these new guys. And I think next year they'll be better. But interesting that they decide not to renew the GM.
Sutter has 2 more years at I think 4.2 a year. And again, he did win the Jack Adams last year and was the coach of the year and did an incredible job. But there is I think we've seen, especially at this point with the type of players that fill National Hockey League rosters, there is a law of diminishing returns with the taskmaster like Daryl Sutter. And he just wasn't able to get as much out of that group as certainly he did the year before, and didn't have the best line in hockey after that monster season that Tkachuk and Gaudreau had along with Elias Lindholm. So big changes coming in Calgary. Our old pal Patrick Laine is going to have a new head coach as well, as the Blue Jackets have moved on from Brad Larson. Columbus is going to be one of those teams. If you've had any fun doing the old lottery sim yet, they're right in the mix. They'll have a top pick. But, listening to what Elliot Friedman had to say a little earlier, it does sound like this could be the most important hire in certainly Jarmo Kekalainen's time as the general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I think there's a real level of impatience to get this team to a much better place than they've been right now. I know there was some speculation from people around here. Would this be Pascal Vincent's opportunity to finally get onto a head coaching gig? I'm not sure that will be the case. I think we'll probably see maybe a more veteran coach come in and take care of a team that has some pretty, elite talent, but obviously not enough right now. And that could be a real plum job if the ping pong balls go the right way for Jarmo and the Jackets in a couple weeks.
Yeah, the talk now is okay, what team do you want to see Connor Bedard on? Do you want to see Connor Bedard in Columbus? And I don't know. My answer is no. I would vote for Anaheim for me, and that's another team that fired or let go of their coach.
Anaheim would be a disaster for the NHL.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. They do not want him on the West Coast.
Oh, for time zone reasons.
Yeah, so many of those teams. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, we're in the Central Time Zone. It's the best time zone I think to be in. But when on the Thursday night, and I wanted to go watch that the late game, the Vegas game, to see who we were playing. That started at 10:30 out there. I mean, essentially, you're losing one of the most exciting young players to come into the league for probably 60% of the population by playing out there. So, I mean, to me, I think I don't want to see him in Chicago because I think that would be a massive, massive boost to the Blackhawks. And
a time zone.
We'd be dealing with them. But you know what? Going to an original 16 that has had some success in the past, I think for the league would be really good. But I'd actually love to see him go to Columbus. And I think that the fans there have supported their team. I think they deserve something good to happen that way. And I know we don't think of Columbus as, a legit long-time NHL team. But I'd have no problem with that. I don't want him to go to Montreal. I'll tell you that much. And I guess, there's a couple other teams. Vancouver is on the West Coast. They've got the least chance. I think they've got a 3% chance. So that would be sort of neat. Detroit, maybe. I could certainly live with the Detroit Red Wings getting him, having him be in the East, having him in the Eastern Conference, not being in the division. There's just before we get to the Jets, in the chat, folks, why not question of the day for our friends over at Not AutoCorp. While we focus on the 16 teams that are playing, of the teams that are eligible, who would you like to see Connor Bedard go to? I wouldn't even mind the Philadelphia Flyers either. Be hilarious to see him. Welcome to the NHL. Here's your new coach, Connor. It's John Tortorella. Going to be grinding on the fourth line for the first little while to learn what the big boy game is all about. Hey, speaking of junior hockey, just before we get to the Jets, I know people talking about it in chat. knew this series was going to be tough for the Winnipeg Ice. They and the Warriors had split their season series 3-3, and Warriors Moose Jaw came in and managed to get that split in Winnipeg on the weekend. So that series is now 1-1 heading west. They will play tonight in game number 3. And how good is Saturday going to be if you love playoff hockey in this city? You can go downtown if you were lucky enough to get your hands on tickets for game 3 between the Jets and Vegas Golden Knights at 3 p.m. and then head down to the Ice Cave at 7:30 for what will be a guaranteed game 5, regardless of what happens in Moose Jaw for the next couple days with the Winnipeg Ice and the Warriors. So lots of hockey. The one other bizarre thing, Remo, like the Moose clinched their playoff spot last week, and the schedule's out for their first round series against Milwaukee. It doesn't start until Friday. Not this Friday, the following Friday, April 28th. I know there is a play-in series, so there is a little bit of extra rest, and I guess that's good for the for the Moose, especially as they try to give Declan Chisholm enough time to come back and contribute. But I don't know if I can ever remember that sort of a break between finishing a regular season and then beginning the playoffs for the Calder Cup.
Yeah, that's odd, Huss. I don't know what to say, but they got a week off. You can heal up, and we'll see how it goes. Goes for the Moose, but that is another playoffs that we're following here as the Ice. What they lost game 2, and their series is going on, and we have the Jets and the Moose, so it's going to be busy here. And then that's sad. And we'll get more into the schedule. I think coming up, a lot of people have a lot of feelings, Huss, about the Jets' playoff schedule here, especially the home times. But yeah, it's Saturday. Like, you go to that Jets game and then go to the Ice game, or even Valor home opener on that Saturday too. So that Saturday afternoon is going to be big.
And shout out to Valor. Nice start. It sort of caught up on everyone. I didn't realize this season was starting so quickly, but the lads, a 2-0 win on the road to start the season. Shout out to Phil and the fellas to get that win. Jeremy Nickerson pointing out in chat, it is technically the second round, although the first round, I believe, is just a quick sort of play in best of 3. You would think that they could get that done essentially over the course of a weekend, although building availability is a real challenge, especially for a team like Winnipeg, where, you've got to see what's happening with the big club first here. Anyways, lots of playoff action, right? Whether you want to go down to the university and see the Ice, Canada Life Center for the Moose next week, or these games coming up, which of course have sold out. And from the sounds of it, it didn't take very long for the tickets for the whiteout parties downtown, both the one on Donald and the party in the plaza, to get snapped up today very, very quickly. I know they announced at 10:50 a.m. that it was sold out, although I had some people that were tweeting us, in like the first 5 minutes saying that they couldn't find tickets. So anyways, all I'll say is this. It's great to see people fired up that are stepping up for this. And I know there's a lot of talk about the cost for those parties. Listen, I don't think that, we should be complaining about that. There's a lot of costs that go into putting those on. But I think what's most important of that is that half of the ticket price is going to some programs to help some people that really need it downtown through United Way Winnipeg. And I'll give kudos to everyone that's supporting that, but also the fact that they built that in, because I can tell you from the walks to the rink over the last little while, as things are getting a bit nicer out, there's a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of people that really need help downtown. So I'm glad that these whiteout parties will both hopefully be a hell of a lot of fun for everyone that attends, but also putting some money towards some things that are as in everyone's best interest to hopefully get better. All right, let's hear from the Jets. Just before we do that, we'll start it off with our Rick bonus. Bones had lots over the course of the weekend. Both the team hit the road out to Vegas. Shout out to one of our newest sponsors, Modern Man Barbershops, now with 8 locations in Winnipeg. 2 brand new locations, one on Pembina Highway right by Bishop Grandin, close to the university, and another out on the east side on Plessis Road. Modern Man Barbershops offer a variety of grooming services, of which I need right now: haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Book your look and make an appointment at modernmanbarber.com and give them a follow on Instagram at Modern Man Barbershops. And I know we're getting into spring right now, but if you started thinking about summer, how about making 2023 the year you take the plunge? Visit aqua-tech.ca to design your own custom pool. Their team can provide you on-the-spot pricing from designers as well as financing options that suit you. And while you're thinking about potentially that game-changing indoor pool for you and your family to enjoy summer, if you're thinking about doing some work with your home, Aquatech does whole home renovations with thousands of renos as their foundation. Let Aquatech help upgrade any space in your home. Aquatech's ready to make those reno dreams a reality. Learn more about design, pricing, and financing options at aqua-tech.ca. We are ready for the turn of the seasons. I know Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery, as they've been bailing people out when their cars and trucks won't start all winter long. Now it's time to get ready for boats and Sea-Doos and golf carts and more. Bottom line is, if you need a battery for anything, Manitoba Battery's got it at the best price in town. And they'll save you some time even to come down, because you can give them a phone call or order online right around when we go on the air and have that sucker sitting on your doorstep in 2 to 4 hours for less than you'd spend anywhere else in town. No more fighting for a parking spot at Costco or waiting in line at Canadian Tire. Shop local and let Manitoba Battery bring the battery to you at the best prices in town. You can call them at 783-8787, order online at manitobabattery.com, or pop down and see them at 1026 Logan Avenue. And hey, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey proudly supports WST. Of course, we're talking about Canadian Club, and they're also the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It'll be a little more of a wait till we're enjoying those CC and Gingers at IG Field cheering on the blue and gold. But Canadian Club and Ginger Ale is now available in 473 milliliter cans at your local Manitoba liquor marts and beer vendors. If you don't see it at your spot, make sure to ask for it. You can always pick up all the great Canadian Club products at your local Manitoba liquor mart. All right, Reem, we've got a lot to get to from the weekend. But I guess, do you want to get into the schedule?
I just wanted to give just go over the schedule of the games. Friday night happened. We're all watching that Colorado game against Nashville, just waiting for this thing to finish before we got in, and we did get the schedule. This was late Friday. Game 1 tomorrow night, 8:30. It's going to be a lot of 8:30, 9 o'clock starts. Game 2, Thursday, 9 p.m. This is all Central Time. Game 3, the first home game, 3 p.m., the afternoon game here. Going to be, I think, an all-day affair, Huss. And Game 4 on Monday, 8:30 p.m. A lot of people out there, I've seen a lot of thoughts. People unhappy with the 8:30 home start on the Monday. Personally, for me, it actually works great into my schedule. But I know people with kids can barely watch any of these games because they're all 8:30, 9 o'clock starts, being in the West Coast. The afternoon game, I thought it was going to be a Saturday late game, but I'm actually super pumped that it's in the afternoon. I think it's a good time. That Saturday night game is the Seattle's first home playoff game ever. So I can see why the Jets would, and you want to put them actually in their own time zone. So actually, schedule is kind of what I thought it would be. The afternoon game, bit of a surprise, but it's going to be 8:30, 9 o'clock starts, and the home late start is kind of a bummer, but hopefully it's just one of those. And maybe if it gets to Game 6, there's not going to be too many other teams left, and they're nice and give us a 7 o'clock start.
Listen, I don't know how anyone can complain about anything. The Jets scraped in. They're the 8th seed. They had to go into the Pacific Division. And when you're a wild card team playing against teams that are all in the West Coast time zone, guess what? You're going to get West Coast time zone slots. And as I said, listen, some people and some kids won't be able to watch it as normal. Maybe they'll have to PVR or watch it more in the morning, or let the kids stay up as late as they can, and they'll always remember that. But I'll say this. Downtown businesses, I think, are going to really benefit from this. Listen, it would have been nicer to have a later game maybe on Saturday and give more time for pre-gaming, but I'll tell you what, if this team can pull off a win in Game 3 for that 3 o'clock game on Saturday, I have a feeling that the entire downtown area and places close to the arena will be bumping after the game with a lot of pretty excited people that want to make the most of their Saturday night after seeing their team win. And as far as the Monday game at 8:30, That is just another extra couple hours for those businesses to hopefully entertain Jet fans, make a little bit of money, and most important, for the atmosphere inside the arena, allow people to maybe get a couple in them and bring the noise when they enter the building and get behind the team. So the one interesting thing is, obviously, normally it's just 1 day on, 1 day off. There is that 2-day break in between Game 4 and Game 5. The game here in Winnipeg, 8:30 p.m., and then Game 5 isn't going to be till Thursday, which means that we could have another home game the following Saturday. Time still to be determined depending on what other games are still alive on the series that are going on those same days.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people here fired up. So a Saturday home game would be nice. I know a lot of people are picking the series to go 6-7 games, so it's very possible. And as for ticket sales, we know Game 3 sold out. Game 4, I checked before the show, there was one ticket available in like the 200 section for like $400. That was the only ticket, so it's going to be raucous crowd.
Where were you
and
looking? Like StubHub or?
No, that was on Ticketmaster. So you can check that. And Game 6 had a bit more, but I'm assuming those are going to get picked up too. So I think the excitement is real, and we haven't had fans for a playoff game since 2019. And it was great to hear some of the players' comments as well, which is what we're about to get to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, let's get to it. Let's start off with the coach. And I know, earlier on in the weekend, there was no Ehlers. Bones sort of was very coy. Ehlers says, I'm playing, and we'll get to that. Bones was like, well, he's day-to-day. He was out there today, and we may have something even later on with a little bit of an update. But let's start it off with number 6, Reem, because Bones, this guy's got a lot of experience. And it's interesting. I mean, you through a playoff series, you'd like to stay even keeled. Don't get too high from the highs and don't get too low from the lows. And it's very interesting to compare that to the Winnipeg Jets season, where I would suggest there was some real highs early on. There was some incredible lows in the second half of the year, and yet they got back to where they needed to be at the end. Certainly, hopefully have more highs than lows in this best of 7 series against Vegas. But Rick Bowness talked about managing those highs and lows come playoff time.
We stay here. We do. We can't get up. We can't get down. There's going to be calls that are going to go against us. You can't let it affect you. There's going to be calls you're going to get that you shouldn't have got. Don't get too excited about it. They're going to score goals. We're going to score goals. There's going to be shifts. We're hemmed in our zone, so we try to bend and not break a little bit. There's going to be shifts where we hem them in their zone, and you just can't. They're a good hockey team we're playing. They're the best team in the West. So there's going to be ebbs and flows to the game, and you can't go with it. You just got to stay here. Okay, I just had a bad shift. My next shift has to be better. I just had a good shift. Okay, let's make sure I do that again, without it just accepting it. It's going to happen again. You got to make sure you're prepared to make it happen out there.
All right, Rick Bowness on just the need to stay even keeled, and it is a great and a very salient point, Reem, in a lot of ways. In that the joy that a team and a fan base gets from a big overtime win, is a great boost. But these are long series at times, and sometimes it goes the other way. And it is incredibly important to move on very quickly after when a tough game or a poor performance, because you do get another chance unless that was the 4th win.
Yeah, it's kind of funny here, even like after a win, we're like, oh, this team's going to win the cup. They can beat anyone. And after a loss, you're like, oh, man, they should just tank and rebuild. So,
are you saying that there's day-to-day overreaction among sports fans when following their favorite team?
I think so. So
what an outrageous comment.
But I guess it happens, with the team, not just us, it happens with the team too. You get so high, you think you're unbeatable, but you do have to take they talk about taking one shift at a time. I know that's a cliche, but you kind of do just have to focus on the next one, focus on playing your game, and we'll see how they manage that going forward.
Now, this next one, we'll go with 8, Remo. The current state of the lines for Rick Bowness. And I think we certainly know what he's going to be throwing up the boards with Pierre-Luc Dubois. as well as with Adam Lowry. There was a question as to, where Nikolai Ehlers is out on the weekend. It certainly looks promising. He was a full participant in practice today. And then, of course, Kevin Stenlund's injury suffered in game number 82. He was not out there right now. This is from yesterday, but Bones, before the team got on the plate, talked about the current state of his lines going into this Vegas series.
I would see the chemistry between the lines is all good right now. If we have to move some guys around, we have guys that can play different positions without really affecting the chemistry that badly. But the chemistry of what we're seeing from the four lines is good. Now, again, going into the Vegas, we don't have that last line change. So we'll just have to see. I want to see their matchups, and we'll just see how everything looks from there on.
Well, as I said last week, I'll bet anybody $20 that 17's taking that opening night face-off for the Winnipeg Jets. But the matchups will be, obviously Rick Bowness will have that last change here in Winnipeg. Very interested to see how Bruce Cassidy handles the Winnipeg Jets and the matchups that he's looking to get in those two home games coming up. But big picture for the Winnipeg Jets, they did bail themselves out. I mean, that last homestand, winning 4 or 5 games, despite that loss to Calgary, I think that was still a very winnable game, a close one that didn't go their way. And then that win against Minnesota, which was as close to playoff hockey as we're going to see. It had a lot of nonsense in the third period. It had a lot of guys coming together. Adam Lowry sticking up and standing up to Ryan Reeves. The feeling around this team is that they're ready to go against the Vegas Golden Knights. And Bones talked about getting the good feeling around the team again, playing well, and feeling back to, where they were when they were winning a lot more consistently in the first half of last season.
Yeah, and I know you guys are tired of me saying we hit all those chances, and did we play well enough? Yes, we did. We just didn't score. But I've told you this before. As long as you're creating those chances, you're playing well. Now, there's a goalie in there, and you're hitting post and missing nets, whatever the reason, the puck's not going in. But it's not going in until you generate the number of chances that we've created over the last 6 weeks. So sometimes you play a lot better than the score, and we had too many of those games, which contributed to the skid. But if we weren't, the games we didn't generate, then we certainly addressed that right away. But again, for the most part, the chances for were there. Analytically, defense we were fine. Just the puck wasn't going in. It wasn't going in. So again, it all goes back to, how did your team play? Did your team play well enough to give you a really good chance to win? And some of those losses, and I had to come in here and say, yeah, well, we did, and you guys are looking at me, but you still lost. And that's the bottom line. You got to find a way to win. And that skid, we just didn't find enough ways to win those games.
Yeah, let's get right into 10 here, Remo. This was, I guess a little bit more on that topic, but, you could say that you had all those great chances and they just weren't going in. I think it was pretty clear that the Winnipeg Jets, though, did really elevate their play, regardless of who they were playing against, then that final 2.5 weeks when their backs were against the wall. And Bones talked about stepping it up when they needed wins the most.
Again, I think the players knew we were playing better than the record was indicated. And I think they all felt we just need a game or two to get the puck going in. And we had those 2 6-goal games here at home to get us going, get us over the hump a little bit. And I think that made everyone feel a lot better that, okay, we can take this to another level again.
All right, Bones. It's 2 more from Rick Bowness. And this is less about the... listen, we'll get to that one in a second. Number 12, though, was just what he feels is working for his team right now, and what that does to the confidence level of a team going up as an underdog, playing against the top team in the Western Conference.
The pressure that we put on the opposition, forcing turnovers, the support we had on the puck when we got it, and I think a big part of it again was every line started to look the same without the puck, so we were getting it more. Every line was getting it more. We got our defense a lot more involved, something we've talked about since September, that our D are such a big part of the offense. We have to get them involved, and we get in trouble when we don't get them involved. So I think all of the 4 lines looking the same, getting the puck back, getting our D involved, I think that helped with the outcome as well.
All right, so there's bones on the on what's happened with his team and the way they're feeling getting onto that plane yesterday and heading out to Vegas for the practice earlier today and tomorrow's game number 1. But one other good one from Bonus, he was asked about the excitement, anticipation for the whiteout and a sold out Game 3 downtown Winnipeg at Canada Life Center.
I didn't tell the players I was here for the first one, though. I didn't want them to. They know I'm old enough.
You didn't share that one.
They know I'm old enough. Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. Listen, I've said this many times, this is a great city. This is a great hockey city, and we have knowledgeable fans, and I love that. I think that's a healthy pressure on everyone. And I used to talk about that a lot when I went to Vancouver and leaving the Coyotes for 7 years when you were getting 3,000-4,000 people, and the guys could go golfing, they could go for, no one really cared. We went to Vancouver, and that was a complete drastic change, one end of the spectrum to the other. Man, if you weren't playing well, you heard about it. I think that's a healthy pressure on organizations. This city is knowledgeable. They have a tremendous following and great passionate fans, which we love, and the atmosphere that they can create in this arena is huge. That's all part of hockey, the passion, the emotion. So that's a healthy pressure on all of us that we have to perform, and I don't mind that one bit, and I think it's fantastic that we're sold out. I hope we can sell out Game 2, and I hope we have a lot more home games in the playoff run.
All right, so there is Coach Rick Bowness before the team got on the bird and headed down to Las Vegas for game number 1. By the way, unbelievable turnout today. You can tell Jet fans are ready for the playoffs. Over 600 live with us right now on YouTube in the chat. If you are new, hit that red subscribe button. We're going to be with you every day, Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. Central live throughout the playoffs. And then we're not going anywhere after that as well. The off-season, death taxes, and Monday to Friday, we'll be here for you on Winnipeg Sports Talk. So join us. And you can also find us on audio podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Just search Winnipeg Sports Talk. Let's hear from Nikolai Ehlers. And Rio, I guess let's go to 19, because Nick on the weekend did not practice, but did speak to the media, I think, and that was definitely a positive. And while the coach was listing him as day-to-day, Nikolai Ehlers was quite adamant that you'll see him in a uniform on the ice on Game 1.
I'm good to go. Personally for me, there hasn't really been much concern, I guess. I feel ready to go. So.
Did you have to go through medical clearance, Nikolai?
Sorry?
Did you have to go through any sort of medical clearance following this injury? Or
No. Like I said, I never thought that there was no chance of me playing. It's the playoffs. I want to play. So I'll see you on Tuesday, I guess.
All right, so there's Nikolai Ehlers, and even with what he said, Rick Bowness sort of poured some cold water on that after we heard from Nick. But the bottom line was he was out there in the full contact jersey tonight, and that certainly indicates that he will be good to go for tomorrow. Now, Ehlers is such an important player for the Jets. We'll talk about this more with Jeff coming up, but I mean, with Scheifele being moved to the wing and playing with Dubois and Connor on a loaded up top line, it has given an opportunity for Nikolai Ehlers to really be the dominant offensive driver on a line with Vladimir Metsnikov, who's sort of the defensive conscience of that line, as well as Blake Wheeler. And as a playoff player, Ehlers was a bit of a lightning rod early on. I mean, 17-18, did not really play well, was in a real slump, and that was the one guy that maybe stood out because of all the other good things that were happening. For my money, though, Ehlers, year after year, has gotten better as a playoff player. I thought he was definitely, one of the guys that really did show up in the St. Louis series the following year. And, of course, albeit we weren't able to be at the games, we all remember his heroics against the Edmonton Oilers in that sweep of McDavid and the boys a couple years ago. And, Ehlers just, it's an interesting clip. He talked about how different he is as a player from a guy that got his feet wet in the playoffs 5 years ago.
Well, I'm about 5 years older.
Yeah. I have that one figured out.
Yeah.
Are you a better complete player? Are you a better prepared player for what the postseason brings?
Yeah. You get some experience, playoff experience. you become better as a hockey player in general, and I'm going to do my best to go out and show that.
Well, he'll have plenty of opportunity, Reem. This is not only is this a great opportunity, I think, for Ehlers, and we have to talk about the power play as well at the same time. And, the spark that he's brought to a unit that was struggling mightily and at times kind of sucking any momentum the Jets had in their 5-on-5 game out. But he will certainly be. He may not be on line number one, but he certainly will be one of the most important players for the Winnipeg Jets if they're going to if they hope to beat the Vegas Golden Knights in this best of 7.
I think that second line is going to be key. I mentioned that earlier. What he can bring, what kind of offensive player he is in terms of scoring, and scoring and his efficiency of how often he puts the puck in terms of his ice time. So I wonder if Nikolai Ehlers' ice time watch will be on. On the power play, I'd like to see him there dishing to Kyle Connor on the far side, or we've seen him score on slappers or moving the puck. So, and his zone entries as well. So he does bring so much to the team, and really rounds out their top 6 or top 9 nicely, because we know that Lowry line is going to be getting some big minutes trying to shut down Jack Eichel or whoever they get matched up against. So nice to see him on the ice today, because he says that he's ready. It sounds there like he's going to be ready, but Bonus kept saying day to day, and he wasn't on the ice. And it's like, well, if you're not practicing, but you say you're ready, like what's going on here? But happy to see him on the ice today.
Yeah. If you tuned in a little bit late, we hit this right off the top of the program. But Ehlers was out there, full contact jersey, skating with Nemetstikov and Wheeler. The one guy that wasn't out there was Kevin Stenlund, who apparently not able to practice today. David Gustafsson taking his spot. And if Stenny can't go in game number 1, it looks like it'll be the Gus Bus playing along with Menelainen and Morgan Barron on line 4 for the Winnipeg Jets. And listen, we can talk about Ehlers and Scheifele and Dubois and Morrissey and all the important players the Jets have front. There's no one that's more important in this series than 37 in the net. Connor Hellebuyck is the backbone of this hockey club, and if you are someone that believes the Jets have a good chance to win this series, I'm pretty sure his name is going to be at the top of your reasoning for how the Winnipeg Jets can win. Let's go to 21 right off the bat, Reem, because this is, very likely a head-to-head matchup between Connor Hellebuyck and his former backup and close friend Laurent Brossoit. And Hellebuyck was asked about going up against his old buddy LB potentially in this series.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm close with LB. He's still a good friend of mine, and I know we're going to talk about this for many years, so I'm going to enjoy myself.
Any texts between the two of you in the last few days, just a heads up?
Not yet. I might send him one telling him to look out because I'm coming for him.
Helly with a bit of a fun jab, and but that's exactly what you want to feel. I'll say this about Hellebuyck, Remis. He is... I've always said this. He's my favorite guy to hear interviewed because he doesn't really have much of a filter. He'll tell you what he thinks. And it's very clear from that and the rest of these clips are going that this is what it is all about for Hellebuyck. And, he said that, Vezina Trophy nominations and stuff is great, but, he's in it for the team success right now. And there's no one that can have a bigger impact on his team success than the last line of defense.
Oh, yeah. If the Jets are going to go as far as he taken, we've seen him steal games. Look at that Minnesota game last week, the 50 save game against the Rangers, games earlier in the season in LA or in Vegas where he just willed them to overtime or to a victory. So we know the Jets, their offensive talent is going to have to score goals because they were not really able to do that. And we've said before, if they can score 3, Hellebuyck's going to shut the door. And I love his comments, and you love the confidence that he has in his play. No shortage of confidence with this guy. You love it, and there's some good clips here coming up.
Yeah, let's get to 20. 22 is interesting because he just talked about the match with Vegas after not playing with them for a while, and of course, Big Save Dave, I believe, had 2 of the 3 games. Here's Hellebuyck on that.
Like I was saying earlier, I think you just got to focus on yourself. You worry about your own details in your own game, and you believe in it, and you trust that it's gonna triumph. You can't worry about too much about the other teams, and you can know their details and know what they're probably going to give you, but at the end of the day, if you stick to your details and your game, that gives you the best chance of being your best self.
All right, there's a little bit more from Hellebuck, and here's another interesting clip. And Kelly just talked about, I guess was asked whether he feels like he's playing the best hockey of his career.
Oh, absolutely. I was definitely playing the best hockey of my career, and tomorrow will be better, and the next day will be even better. So I still feel like there's a lot of improvement coming in my game, and that's what excites me. That's what I live for. That's why I love the game, and that's why I'm happy to be around all the time. So playoffs, it just brings out a new level of adrenaline, and details are so important, and mess ups are amplified. So I'm very confident in myself.
God, I love those Hellebuck quotes. Are you playing the best hockey of your career? Absolutely, I am. And tomorrow I'll be better, and the following day I'll be better than that. I mean, I could just listen to those all day long. 25, though, Helly did talk about just the workload that he put in to get his team across the finish line.
The best part I would say from that is my body has now adapted to being able to play a lot of games in a row. You manage a lot of goalies throughout a season. There's not many who get that many, but down the stretch, you want your body to be able to handle it and know what's to come. That being said, you don't want it to be exhausted and run down, but that's why we have such a good organization here and a staff that really manages it well. And I mean, I know exactly what my day-to-day is going to be going for the next 2 months, so I'm very prepared.
He knows exactly what he's going to be doing for the next 2 months. I love it. I absolutely love it. Only Connor Hellebuck can give us quotes like that. But hey, if he's feeling that way and the way he's playing, that's going to give a lot of excitement, I think a lot of confidence to anyone with a stake in what this hockey club's got coming up. We will hear more from a few of the Jets, including Adam Lowry and Nate Schmidt later on in the program. But Jeff Hamilton's going to join us in just a second. Before we bring in Hammer, I've got to have a big thank you to our friends at Vita Health Fresh Market. If you're looking for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, and Winnipeg's largest assortment of local products too, they have you covered. Folks, have you had your healthy fats today? Yes, there is such a thing. Omega-3 fatty acids are beneficial for your skin, brain, joint, and heart health. That's where Health First Omega Supreme comes in. Get your healthy fats the easy way with this one-a-day soft gel. Health First Omega Supreme is on sale all month at Vita Health Fresh Market, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge, and you can check them out online and shop their fully shoppable website with local delivery options at myvita.ca. Well, spring is here, and Wallace & Wallace is ready to get to work for Manitobans on both fencing and overhead doors, as they're the specialists in both. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter did a number on your old one, they've got you covered with vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if it is time to replace your garage door, they've got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. Give Wallace & Wallace a call at 452-2700. Their team will arrange to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them online at wallacefences.com, wallacedoors.com, or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Road off of Kenniston Road. Fellas, how's the closet looking as we get into spring and summer? If you need to up your menswear game heading into the new season, get on down to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, an incredible selection of menswear accessories. 15% discount on your suits for wedding parties when you get them from F Apparel. If you've got a high school grad coming up to have his big day moving out of his school years, get the young man a new suit, and F Apparel will hook him up with a free custom shirt and tie for the graduation at $150 value. 190 Smith Street downtown is where you can find F Apparel. You can make an appointment and check them online at that's EPHapparel.com. And we got blizzard weather coming up. Well, there'll be a blizzard a white blizzard at the stadium or the arena coming up next Saturday. But our friends at the Nick and Nicky DQ group are ready with your blizzard to get you set up for whether it's a long night of watching playoff hockey or a little celebratory pop in after a big Jets win. 4 locations for the Nick and Nicky DQ group: DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, and DQ Niverville. And if you're running the streets of Vegas this week and you see our pal DQ Nick, say hi to him for you. He will be one of the many Jet fans that have made the trip down to Vegas to get ready for game number 1 and to attend it. All right, let's get Jeff Hamilton in here from the Winnipeg Free Press to get his thoughts on the upcoming Stanley Cup playoffs and, of course, this series. Hammer, what's good, buddy? How are you?
Good, man. Good to be here. Exciting day. I know the Jets get kicked off tomorrow, but we got a full slate of playoff hockey. This is the best time of year for the game, and just looking forward to what these next few days and weeks have in store, whether that be here or elsewhere around the NHL.
Just taking a quick look at Murat and the gang that are down there in Vegas has the lines, as we've said, pretty much as expected without Kevin Stenlund, Gustafsson going in. The power play, as we've seen before, Connor Scheifele, Dubois, Morrissey, switching in Ehlers and Wheeler. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Wheeler popping in with the second power play unit with Lowry, Niederreiter, Schmidt, and Pionk. Cole Perfetti also with the team, but doesn't look like he'll really be an option anytime soon for the club. But, Jeff, now we're here one night before the playoffs begin. There's been some incredible highs this season, some unexpected highs earlier on, some real lows in the second half of the year, and then a team that found a way to win the games that they needed to get across the finish line. You've covered this team all year. What do you think of the Jets as presently constructed, coming off that run where they were playing for their lives in the last month? And what does that do to a team that, by all numbers are an underdog going against a big Vegas Golden Knights team?
You know what? It's a great question, and we're not going to find out until the games are played. We've heard a lot of words like battle-tested and playing playoff hockey for the better part of the last month, 6 weeks. Is that going to translate into a first round? As Bonus said today, he hopes his team is aggressive, is hard on the puck, is all over a Vegas Golden Knights team that usually does that to the other teams. Again, we'll have to wait and see if that's the result of all this momentum. The other side of it being obviously is, how exhausting the NHL playoffs are? Incredibly exhausting. I was in Denver, Colorado for the Jets' final game, and it was also happened to be the same day that Gabriel Landeskog announced that he wasn't going to be playing the rest of the year. Will we miss playoffs with Colorado Avalanche? And in his 20-minute scrum, I guess, with reporters, I was in that group. He talked about how difficult the playoffs were and how many mental hurdles there were and struggles there are and how important it is to be at the top of your game. And for those reasons, he couldn't play. And my point in that is saying it's a grueling process to get to where the Jets and every other one of the 16 teams want to get to. So is the fact that they've been playing that high intensity hockey, that mentally draining at sometimes hockey, going to be a positive or a negative heading to this first series? We saw teams like the Boston Bruins when they were in Winnipeg, nearing the end of the schedule. They were in a lull because they had pretty much wrapped up the President's Trophy and guys just didn't seem all that motivated. So, I don't think that's the case for Vegas. Certainly in the West, it took a while it took all the way to the end essentially to determine who was going to be, who was going to be where in the standings. So, in that mind frame, that's the same situation the Vegas Golden Knights are in. So you have two teams that have been fighting for and jockeying for position. So it should be a great series. But whether or not the Jets, playing desperate hockey over the last month is going to translate into something positive, again, we're just going to have to wait and see if they can ride that momentum here into the playoffs.
Yeah, that certainly will be the goal to do that. And I think it was important to get that one day off certainly for Connor Hellebuck and some of the other guys in that final game of the regular season that you were in Colorado for. That being said, it is all hands on deck. And your colleague Mike McIntyre had a little fun, or Nikolai Ehlers, he was just reporting, said that he's in a bit of a media war with the coach as to his availability to play. But certainly, Jeff, the fact that he was in the full contact jersey practicing as with all of his teammates today bodes very, very well. And To me, I mean, it starts with Connor Hellebuck for obvious reasons, but away from the net, I think Nikolai Ehlers might be arguably the most important player in this series for the Winnipeg Jets, considering that he is the engine on a line that they're going to need to get some results from, with the top line loaded up the way that it is, and obviously Adam Lowry's line doing the incredible work that they've been doing as of late. That second line could be the key to a lot of success for Winnipeg, and it all starts with 27.
I'll just add one more thing before I answer your question about the just with Ehlers talking to the media yesterday. I mean, he said he's playing. So, even when we were in Denver, Nikolai Ehlers didn't play against the Colorado Avalanche. He wasn't going to play against the Colorado Avalanche anyways. I'm not saying he wasn't, rattled by that hit by Ryan Hartman, but I mean, we saw him out and about in the city and at practice, and he looked, no worse for wear. And so I have absolutely no issues or absolutely no. My confidence in Nikolai Ehlers playing is about as confident as his confidence that he'll be playing. As far as they're going to need everything from everybody. I mean, as you mentioned, I don't think there's a bigger impact player on this team than Connor Hellebuck. But you look across the lineup, like as you mentioned, outside of the net, Nikolai Ehlers is a key, if not the most important piece of that second line, particularly when it comes to gaining the offensive zone, and that's going to be really important against the Vegas Golden Knights. They don't give up a lot up the middle. They tend to collapse in front of their net. They give up more shots than the Jets, but they don't give up as much quality shots than Winnipeg. And so leaving a lot of those shots to the outside, that happens when you sustain offensive zone time. Nikolai Ehlers, of course, as we've seen him when he's at his best, he's whipping up and down the ice. And if he can generate some of that offense, we've seen him off the rush, that's only going to bode well for Winnipeg. And certainly that lineup is, particularly in Winnipeg, because I think it's going to be an interesting game 1 and 2 with Vegas getting last change. I don't think the Jets are going to be able to do exactly what they want to do as far as matching lines. I think once they get back to Winnipeg, it will be Adam Lowry's line, exclusively tasked with shutting down that top line with Jack Eichel, and that opens up opportunities for other lines, and particularly that second line, because they're going to be playing against Vegas's most likely their third line, and with some offensive talent that's on that unit, particularly Ehlers, it's going to be an opportunity for them to score goals and generate offense. So, I'm not saying that's not going to be the case in Vegas. I think it's just going to be a bit more prominent in Winnipeg when Rick Bowness has the opportunity to do with what he wants with the lines when he wants to put them out there. But certainly in Vegas, in what's going to be a wild T-Mobile arena, you're going to need that momentum. You're going to need that driving offense, and certainly no one does that better than Nikolai Ehlers.
Yeah, and I mean, his contributions to the power play, while many thought were overdue, it came, and I don't think there's any question that his emergence on that top power play unit gave it a much, much different look, gave it some pop, and finally got some things going in the right direction. Because, I mean, to me, especially during that slump, Jeff, I mean, there were some games where the Jets probably played well enough to win, but if you are doing nothing with so many power play chances, it does suck the life out of other areas of your game, and I thought that was very problematic. It has looked different with Ehlers on that point on PP1.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, power play is going to be, special teams in general is going to be a massive storyline in this, and could very well be what decides this series. We know how difficult the Jets have, in generating 5-on-5 goals, even strength goals, but that's going to be the case for everybody in the playoffs. Everybody, every play is, everyone's playing a lot more careful. It's more calculated hockey. Every mistake is magnified. So 5-on-5 even strength goals are hard to come by, and the difference will be on the power play. The Vegas has the slight edge there in their power play, and particularly of late. But the Jets, they have the firepower, they have the ability and talent to score. They just need to bury their chances, and that's really been the difference between these two teams. And I think that's the reason why you're looking at a top seed in the West in the Vegas Golden Knights and an 8th seed in the Winnipeg Jets, and why so many people are kind of classifying this series as a coin flip, which is crazy to think, right? When you're a team that's led the Western Conference, and you're playing a team that's in the Winnipeg Jets that have squeaked in. But a lot of the difference in results, the difference in points and standings, the difference between the two teams in Vegas and Winnipeg is that Winnipeg isn't scoring on their opportunities, isn't scoring on their chances. And so whether it's on the power play, particularly with that top line of Dubois, Scheifele, and Connor, those guys need to be clicking. They need to be difference makers in the game, and it's going to be on the man advantage where they're going to have their best opportunities. And so I don't know if we've seen a ton of progress in the right direction on the power play to suggest that, it's finally here. But I think we've seen enough to not be surprised if it does show up. And I think, again, that's going to be a key component here. The Jets penalty kill has pulled their weight all year long. They've been a top 5 unit really from the start of the season. So if the Jets can get their power play rolling, get that group going, getting them, as you mentioned, feeling good, because we know how much momentum a power play can put into your team and suck out of it if it's not doing well. The Jets, of course, again in two crazy barns. I don't know if there's two crazier arenas in the NHL than Winnipeg and Vegas. And so if you can go into enemy territory and dictate special teams, that's ultimately what's going to lead you for squeezing out a win for sure.
You know what? Goaltending obviously is a massive factor, and certainly I think on paper against just about everyone, the Winnipeg Jets will have a tick in their box with Hellebuck and the way that he's playing. But much like when the team was struggling, I mean, it often comes down to your best players, your highest paid players, the guys that have got it done, and how impactful can they be against their contemporaries on the other side. And with this line now, with Connor, Dubois, and Scheifele, offensively, they are certainly capable of being right up there with some of the best lines. But I look at this matchup with the number 1 line in Vegas. Now, who knows whether they'll be going head-to-head or not? That'll sort of be up to the coaches and how they work it out. But, you've got Jack Eichel playing in his first ever playoff game and playoff series, and unbelievably never been in a best of 7 before in his life, because obviously with the way that he came through college hockey, along with Marchessault, who certainly has some playoff experience, and Barbashev, who I thought was a real nice pickup for them at the trade deadline. When you think about those two lines, from either perspective, I mean, listen, you want to outscore them. I think that goes without saying. But, is there when you look at those things, is there one advantage on either side, the way things are made up? Or is this going to be one of those series where it's almost a push between those top lines, and really it'll be more of the depth of these two teams that, often are the difference between winning and losing on any given night?
Well, I think that's the beauty of the playoffs. It's always unsung heroes. I don't think it's necessarily that the two top lines even themselves out. It's just somebody on some team that nobody expects just comes out of the woodworks and starts becoming the playoff hero. And so I do think, you hear it, you've heard it in the last few weeks, you hear it every single year, complementary scoring or depth scoring is so important. It takes pressure off the top end guys who are expected to score every night. And certainly, as you mentioned, depending on the matchups, if you're able to get, if the Lowry line, for instance, with Nino Niederreiter and Mason Appleton, they've found their scoring touch of late. If they're able to, play against top end competition and chip in an offense, it's those extra contributions that are going to make all the difference. Now, if you look at that lineup, that top line, there's a lot of pressure on Pierre-Luc Dubois, Mark Scheifele, and Kyle Connor. We saw them go through dry spells after the All-Star game. I think Scheifele led the team with 11 goals only from like mid-January. You had Nikolai Ehlers and Kyle Connor, I think, at 8, and you have Dubois at 5 and Wheeler at 4. That's just, that kind of production is just not good enough, and won't be good enough in the playoffs. If they want to get past this team. I think if you look at particularly those two lines and notably Jack Eichel, he led the team with 66 points. There was nobody on the club that eclipsed 70 points, but of those 66 points, 47 of them were even strength for Jack Eichel. So he's obviously been a driver 5-on-5, and we've seen that top line individually not perform that great defensively. Now, the difference is being, and that you've heard Mark Scheifele talk about over the last week, and I think this is key, is sometimes offense can be the best defense. And what I mean by that is if that top line can get, sustained offensive pressure, do what they like to do, as Mark Scheifele likes to do, hold on to the puck and generate quality opportunities. If they can do that more often than not, that might be the recipe to the success against, not only just stopping a guy like Jack Eichel, who's primed, obviously incredibly excited to play his first playoffs, but most importantly to limit him and his line mates. And if they can do that, particularly over these next 2 games, I think that's where they're going to get a heavy dose of that matchup. Less so again in Winnipeg when the Jets have last change, but that's going to be a massive piece of the puzzle. I mean, we'll get into the goaltending, I'm sure, but of all the things that need to go right, it's certainly having the Jets' best players be their best players is at the top of the list. As much as you do enjoy seeing unsung heroes and requiring secondary and complementary scoring, those guys still need to be the drivers on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, if we were having this conversation 10 or 15 years ago, we might not spend as much time talking about special teams in the playoffs because obviously the refs more often than not put the whistles away. That really doesn't happen as much anymore. And the special teams battle in this series is really interesting. Now, Vegas does have a better power play for the season than the Winnipeg Jets, but they're middle of the pack in the National Hockey League. I think just into the bottom half at 20.3%. And the Winnipeg Jets, well, there's 5 teams between them, are 19.3%. So, I mean, you're basically talking about 1 more goal per 100 opportunities, relatively close. What is not close is the penalty killing numbers. I mean, the Jets, solidly in the top 10, and actually I guess they dropped just out. I mean, there's 4 teams between 82.6 and 82.4. Their official ranking, I guess, is 7th in the National Hockey League, but you go down to see the Vegas Golden Knights at 77.6. Again, basically right where their power play number is, in the middle of the pack. Hellebuck's a huge part of the PK. Obviously, we know the guys that have got it done. But I'm not sure there's really a huge advantage on either side of the special teams, except for the guy that's in goal. And to me, I mean, the Hellebuck factor is so important. And if you are someone that believes the Jets can win or will win, it starts with Connor Hellebuck and what he can do for you at 5-on-5, but also being a guy that can be the difference between a sure goal going in and one maybe that gets stolen away. And I mean, it really, but winning and losing, the difference between it in these playoff games can be so thin that, a guy with that sort of track record playing the way he is right now, it is maybe the factor when it comes to this series, certainly if you're trying to pull an upset.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there is no player more important to the Winnipeg Jets success than Connor Hellebuck. And, as you mentioned, whether it's coming up big on the penalty kill that's allowed them to be, such a strong unit this season, whether it's erasing mistakes in the defensive zone. We know how susceptible the Jets have been in the slot in the past, giving up quality opportunities that, that Connor Hellebuck has either had to make an acrobatic save or what Rick Bowness likes to call timely saves. I mean, just look at the game in Minnesota. I mean, that save on the paddle that pretty much saves the Winnipeg Jets playoff life. And so Connor Hellebuck is going to be the biggest piece of the puzzle. But at the same time, I think if you want to get you can't just go in there and rely on Connor Hellebuck to win you this series. I'm not suggesting the Jets are, but we've seen it far too many times this season where at the end, it's like we can't just let our goalie get shelled for 50 shots and hope to win. And so that's why, to our last point about the top dogs, bringing some bark to this series, about the top end players doing their job. I mean, they need to make the job as easy as possible on Connor Hellebuck, who's been, an absolute workhorse this year. No one's played more games. I mean, as I think you said before I got on here, 13 straight starts before getting that night off in Colorado. And so I think if you can put Connor Hellebuck in a position to succeed, as good and as strong and as confident as he is, he's going to be the difference maker in this. And I think that's why a lot of pundits around the NHL have the Jets as a very, very close opponent, as I keep seeing the words slight underdog. And the big reason for the fact the Jets are an 8th seed against the top seed and are only a slight underdog is because of 37 between the pipes. And so, there's going to be nights where the Jets are going to get hemmed in their own zone. There's going to be times in the game where they get, the play dictated to them, but they need to do their best to give Connor Hellebuck the best opportunity to be as good as he possibly can be. Because if you meet him halfway, and he's going to be even more dangerous and will be that difference. And I think that's what a lot of Jets fans, when they have hope going into this series, it lays with Connor Hellebuyck and just not only what he's been able to do, this season, but particularly, down the stretch here when we played quote unquote, must-win games, and has brought his best. So it will be an exciting matchup. I mean, obviously Laurent Brossoit at the other end. I mean, super small sample size, but 11 games this year, 7-0-3. He's never lost in regulation. That's a pretty interesting situation between the pipes for a team that, with injuries to their netminders, as bad as that situation could be, and you want to talk about riding momentum. I mean, Laurent Brossoit might be the hottest goalie going into the playoffs, so we'll see what he can do. It's a whole other beast to be in the playoffs, a whole other animal as far as pressure and pressure to succeed. So we'll see what he's learned over his years here, and since we last saw him in Winnipeg, and what should be a great series. But if I had to pick who I wanted to be between the pipes, it's Connor Hellebuyck all day, regardless of who is on the other side.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, you just made a great point, and I think that just goes to the credit that hockey team and certainly Bruce Cassidy deserves. I mean, the fact that they were able to win the West with basically a revolving door of goaltenders throughout the year. Yeah. Speaks to, the way this team plays night in and night out and the depth they have in the lineup. And certainly, I mean, their goaltenders are helped out by, a couple of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League with Shea Theodore and Peter Angelo. And I do think that is an advantage for Vegas overall. But they have done it so far. That being said, the stakes get increased big time. It's not like Laurent Brossoit has a long, extensive playoff career. And there's a lot of guys on the other side that have taken a shot or two on him in practice over the years too. So, I mean, it's just a very, very interesting side story to the matchup overall. Matthew Jansen in chat, I think, makes a great point. Puck management will be key. Vegas are great on D as a team, transition fast, and are very opportunistic in their scoring. If the Jets' turnovers are in risky places, which at times has been a team trait, that will be trouble. And Matthew nails it on that. And sometimes you hear coaches, you just need to get back to the simple style of game. And Rick Bowness has been preaching that from the start of the year. I really do think that the Winnipeg Jets and a couple players in particular, namely Neil Pionk in the last month of the season, were far, far better with decision-making and lack of turnovers. But I'm sure you agree, Jeff, that, the point that Matthew just made, the Jets' ability to manage the puck is going to be absolutely crucial. Same goes for Vegas as well, but the traits that Vegas brings, the way they forecheck, the way they can make you pay for those mistakes, to be the ability to minimize or limit those for Winnipeg is going to really be a massive determining factor in how this goes.
Absolutely. I mean, that's been the identity, not just for the Golden Knights this season, but for years. Hard on the puck, fast transition team, incredibly speedy through the neutral zone. Those are all things that are big threats. They generate a lot of offense off the rush. And so possession of the puck naturally will be an important piece to this, to this series. And as I made a point before, particularly that top line, if they can generate offense, generate time in the offensive zone, keep the puck away from Vegas's top guns, that's going to be a massive piece of the puzzle here. You look at what Vegas has been able to do this year. I mean, the fact that they're kind of like a workman-like team. I mean, they live in a flashy city, but like I mentioned before, they don't have one guy in 70 points, and so it's a little bit of a collective group here. Certainly the speed is I don't want to say second to none, but they're faster than the Jets. The Jets know this, and they know how important it is going to be to play, make smart decisions, and on top of that, be disciplined. I think, Rick Bowness, I think, is going to be an X factor in this, in that I almost feel like he's been biting his tongue a little bit. I mean, he's obviously been very transparent in certain moments down the stretch, but I don't think he's going to have as long a leash for some of the stupid penalties, some of the lazy penalties that we've seen over the last few weeks. And I think that goes with smart decision making. If you're giving up pucks in the neutral zone, if you're dropping pucks to nobody, again, not things that we necessarily saw too much of from Winnipeg, but certainly saw over the season, I wouldn't be surprised if he sits guys down. I think this is his opportunity to send a message here that this, this is, no one can go on their own schedule anymore. And again, I don't think that's been an issue over the last 5 or 6 games, but if it starts to creep back in, given how important the playoffs is and how important it is to play, clean, solid hockey against a Vegas Golden Knights team that just doesn't give you a lot of time and space and can kill you on any turnovers and errors you make. I think that's going to be, his biggest power is enforcing that message and ensuring that, it's disciplined hockey and clean hockey through and through against the Knights.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's funny about that, Jeff, is that, let's face it, when we talk about kind of being too cute and making somebody drop, it's the best players on the team that have been the biggest offenders. Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers, Mark Scheifele, those guys at times have gotten a little careless with the puck or maybe feeling it too much. Excuse me, that was a hot take alert here at WST headquarters. But, the simplifying those things and getting the puck out first and foremost is going to be absolutely crucial. And, whether things get changed, whether there's some ice time changes, I can't imagine the Winnipeg Jets winning this series or staying in this series if those guys aren't playing a lot and aren't playing well. But making sure that they get off to that start and doing those little things and not putting themselves in the position to potentially get victimized on that is going to be a big part of, that matchup with the Vegas Golden Knights. On the other side of things, Mark Stone is apparently cleared to play and is going to give it a go in round 1, number 1. And I know a lot of people sort of, saying this is the Kucherov thing. They added to the roster and then are bringing him around. To me, it's quite different. This guy did have back surgery earlier this year. And it wasn't like Kucherov where he was practicing with the team for a month, basically just waiting to bring him off. I really do wonder how much Mark Stone will have, at least at the start of this series. If they go long and hope, for their sake, he'll hopefully, presumably get better throughout. But, he's probably going to be playing on the third line to begin. And, he, in a lot of ways, is that heart and soul player of the team. And there's nobody better at turning pucks over in the National Hockey League. He's also a pretty opportunistic scorer. I do wonder, though, how Mark Stone looks early in this series, considering what he's been through, the injuries coming back from, and how long he's been off the ice in game action.
Yeah, you and everybody else has. I think that's the big question here is what Mark Stone are we going to see? Are we going to see close to 100%? Are we going to see 90%? Is to all the points you just made, he is such a significant piece of the Vegas Golden Knights. He's the ultimate 200-foot player. As you mentioned, leads the league in takeaways or is very much close to that. Can score. He certainly brings an energy to the team. In fact, I was reading up about, just about his season, and I guess in January when they shut him down, it was important that he stuck around the team. That he was a presence there because of how big a presence he is. They wanted him to be around the team and to be, just for the good feeling. And sure enough, you got to think that played a role in why they finished first and, without him. Now to have him, that's the biggest key right now. And again, I go back to why the Jets are being viewed as quote unquote slight underdogs is because I don't think you can look at Mark Stone and be like, he's going to be 100%. We all know, talking to guys who are out for, 2 weeks, sometimes 5 days, to get back into game shape is a whole new beast. And so to be out as long as Mark Stone was and to do it after back surgery, I think there's concern's not the right word because I'm sure he's healthy. It's just at what point, to what degree is he going to be able to make those plays, fast enough? In the playoffs, everything, again, is magnified. You need to make the decisions quicker. Everything is just, and that's not just from the playoffs. That's in the last stretch of the season. I remember talking to Pierre-Luc Dubois when he made, kind of his return, talking to him in St. Louis, and just about getting that one extra step, right? It's not only is the game getting faster throughout the year, but by the end of the year, stuff that you used to be able to, like time-wise, whether it's a second and a half, whatever it may be, you used to get away with earlier in the season, you're no longer getting away with anymore. And again, that just magnifies into the playoffs. So to have kind of, and I think that's why you see Mark Stone on the third line, right, to start this series. If he can hit the ground running and become, the Mark Stone many of us have seen him over his career, it's not going to be a long time before they probably reunite that line with Jack Eichel and Chandler Stevenson. That was a great line before Mark Stone went down, one of the top 10 lines in the NHL. So certainly starting him on the third line is probably safer, lets him get his feet under him. But yeah, I don't see this as a Tampa Bay-like situation. I see this as a guy who needed the surgery, was in pain, and if it was up to him, would have been playing this season under different circumstances, obviously with the injury. So he comes in now. He's going to be a big piece of the mental puzzle for the team. But let's see what Mark Stone can do on the ice, because I do think his health, much like Connor Hellebuck's ability to show up for this series, much like the Winnipeg Jets top line playing like a top line, Mark Stone playing like Mark Stone is a massive storyline. And if he can play anywhere near what we expect him to play, that bodes well for Vegas and not so well for Winnipeg.
Hammer, I'm not sure there's a player that I'm more looking forward to seeing perform in the playoffs from the Winnipeg side of things than Pierre-Luc Dubois.
I thought you were going to say Adam Lowry.
No, well, Lowry. Listen, I basically talked nonstop about Lowry for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I mean, Adam Lowry is absolutely in that line going to be a big. I put it this way: I have no questions about Adam Lowry. We know exactly what he's going to do and how important that line is going to be. But I am intrigued because, I mean, the high of Dubois is incredible. He hasn't been as consistent as I'm sure that you would like, but he's got a major, major role, very important role, being the number one center, playing with two guys that certainly traditionally will never be Selke candidates, but also that bite to his game that is lacking in some of the others, especially in the top six. Just your thoughts on how important he is to Winnipeg, and what do you think? What do you expect to see from Dubois once we get going tomorrow night?
Oh, he's massively important. I mean, we keep writing about it, we keep talking about it, we keep hearing about it, that Pierre-Luc Dubois is built for playoff hockey. I mean, the guy plays, he's one of the few guys. I know there's been some frustration with maybe some consistency in his game, but certainly doesn't lack emotion. And that's what you need in the playoffs, is you need emotion. And when you couple that with the skill set and the body type that he has, I mean, he has the ability to take over a playoff series. We saw that years ago in the bubble when he was a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and just, he was a one-man wrecking ball essentially against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so, if he can channel anywhere near that, I mean, this guy can be a dangerous player. I put Dubois in this category, but I put Mark Scheifele in this category. I put Blake Wheeler in this category. I put Connor Hellebuck in this category. I think this is being framed a little bit like The Last Dance. This team is, everyone, people I've talked to in that locker room understand the contract situations for their top end players. They understand that Mark Scheifele has only 1 year left. They understand that, Pierre-Luc Dubois could sign a 1-year deal and be gone. Connor Hellebuck, same story as Mark Scheifele. And so a lot of who knows what the future of Blake Wheeler is down the road after there was efforts to try to trade him last offseason. So, I think this is a bit of a legacy move for some of these players and how they'll be remembered in Winnipeg. And I think they're conscious of that. And that bodes well for, whether they're here next season or not. I think that, understanding the impression that will be left on them, in this city is based on this playoffs to a large extent. You're going to get the best out of them. So, I'm expecting nothing but, a motivated and certainly emotional performance by Pierre-Luc Dubois. I mean, everyone wants to succeed in the playoffs, right? Everybody wants to win the Stanley Cup. When you add in the factors that Winnipeg is facing, and certainly heading into this summer, and all those things considered, I think you're going to see a group of players. As much as I expect Pierre-Luc Dubois to be at the top of his game, I expect Mark Scheifele to be at the top of his game. I expect Blake Wheeler to bring everything that he has, and I certainly expect Connor Hellebuyck to do the same. This group cares about each other. They want to have success. Now it's time to prove and show that, because whatever happens here in this playoffs, next year's bound to look a lot different than this year. And I think, again, that's top of mind from not only the players who are mentioned or part of that maybe exodus this summer, but even the other guys that are on the roster and understand that they might not have as talented a team down the stretch if these guys don't stick around.
Hammer, just before we go, outside of this Vegas-Winnipeg series, are any upsets that you're prognosticating? I mean, do you have any teams that had good seasons that you think might fall flat? I mean, just any thoughts on the other 7 series with 4 of them getting underway today?
You know what? I don't really have anyone who I like a lot of teams, and I know that sounds crazy. I feel bad for teams in the East. Like, it's just like Boston Bruins. I think this is their year. I don't know how you look at what they've been able to achieve this season. The depth that they have. The fact as healthy as they are. I don't know how anyone comes out of the East in that respect. The West feels wide open. The Avalanche are beat up. I don't think they're as as dominant a team as maybe some would expect them to be. And for a team that finished top in the Central, I like every series, to be honest with you. Like I think Dallas and Minnie is going to be an incredibly tight series. I'm looking forward to that one. I think Dallas could be a dangerous team, but I also think Minnesota could be a dangerous team. The Oilers, is this their season? I mean, some would suggest it is. I mean, they have all the pieces. They have, Stuart Skinner between the pipes. I mean, that was kind of the missing piece. They have everything to compete for a Stanley Cup. Adding Matthias Ekholm at the deadline completely changed that team. I don't even think they've lost in regulation since he's joined the club. And then again, the East, I mean, pick your poison. Like I do like Boston coming out of that series. Coming out of the East, but I mean, how can you look at Carolina and not like what you see? I mean, is this the year for Toronto? I'm going to go with no. Maybe there's another first round exit. That alone brings enough drama in this country. And then certainly when you look at the battle between New Jersey and New York Rangers, I mean, geez, anyone who has a perfect bracket at the end of this, I'll give them my number and they can make bets for me for as long as they want. I'll just hand them my money. But certainly I think out of the West, if I had to pick 2 teams out of the West, or one out of the West, one out of the East, I got Boston coming out of the East for sure. And I just feel something about Dallas. I don't know what it is. That's my pick out of the West.
I love that Dallas pick. And maybe I'm still bent about the circus in Minnesota last week, and that's clouding my vision, hoping that the Wild are bounced right away. That could very well be possible, but man, Jason Robertson is such a stud. You got Rupee Hintz and some great playoff experience with the likes of Pavelski in particular, but even Ben and Sagan, who we'll see what they have left. And of course, Ottinger in net. I mean, I think he is much like Hellebuyck, gives the Winnipeg Jets sort of a leg up on whoever they're playing in the Pacific Division. I think Ottinger is the guy. And don't underestimate the importance in that loss of Landeskog for a Stanley Cup winning team to what Colorado has. Listen, Hammer, this has been a lot of fun, man. Have a great week. We'll see you in and around the rink. And next week, if we're doing this on a Monday, we'll have 3 games in the books and be getting ready for a late Game 4 start, 8:30 at Canada Life Center. Going to be a real fun week around here. Just quickly, for the Freak team, tee up. I know Mike's in Vegas right now. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's going to be no shortage of Jets and Vegas Golden Knights content for the next little while in the paper.
Oh yeah, all hands on deck for the Jets for sure. This is Christmas time for hockey season, and certainly Mike will, as Mike often does, works like a workhorse out there. He's going to be getting you everything. I had already seen on social media. He's jumped from the practice, the Jets practice at T-Mobile over to the Golden Knights practice facility. He'll have, Mike will deliver on all that content. So he'll be covering the first few games. Or a couple games. And then obviously when they come home, I'll be joining them obviously on the home side and supporting any way I can from home here for the first 2 games. But certainly starting tonight, it'll be glued in front of the TV. Playoff hockey, man. Couldn't be a better time of year.
Let's go. Thanks for doing this, pal. Have a great one. We'll talk to you soon.
Always a pleasure, man. Thanks a lot.
Good stuff. I see Doug Phil in chat. Bonus versus Paul Maurice in the finals. Can you imagine that? Don't sleep on Florida, though. I'll say that. I know they're going up against a historically good Boston team. There are some reasons to think that could be a lot closer of a series than I think a lot of people would assume by looking at the records. We are going to get to the odds on this, hoping to have Gary jump on with us at some point. We'll keep an eye out for him. But just want to give, again, a big thanks to our friends at Princess Auto. What a great event that they put on out in Toronto last weekend with the Princess Auto Players Championship and the Grand Slam of curling. So many great Manitoba teams out there, and a special congratulations to Carrie Anerson and her team, who, with that win in the quarterfinals, locked up the Pinty's Cup and a $75,000 bonus for the top team in the Grand Slams all year long. Princess Auto proudly supporting curling in Canada, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Well, our pals at Consolidated Supply are ready for spring and ready for this Thursday, the 20th. From 2 until 8 p.m., grand opening of the Consolidated Supply showroom at 1395 Niagara Road East. All are invited. Going to have food trucks, refreshments, some raffles, and get a chance to meet our pals Joe and Spicy and Gene and Chris and everything that they do. They're the leaders in irrigation systems, artificial turf, and golf carts, and have other great options for your property, including hot tubs and amazing outdoor kitchen options and small engine parts and repair. Pop by and see them anytime, but especially this Thursday, 2 to 8 p.m. at 1395 Niagara Road East, and you can find out more online at cte.ca. Hey, Royal Sports is absolutely packed for the playoffs. Check out their Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina. They've got white jerseys. They've got the heritage jerseys in white. They've got the white reverse retro jerseys right now. So if you need to up your Jets gear game before game number 3 here in Winnipeg, you know where to do it. But drop by Royal Sports and get ready for the whiteout at Manitoba's #1 sports superstore for over 40 years at 750 Pembina Highway. White hats as well, white t-shirts, the retro reverse hats as well. Going to be a lot of them. It's all hands on deck at Royal Sports as we get ready for the playoffs. So if you have any Jets merchandise needs to fill out that white outfit for the game, you know where to do it. Royal, 750 Pembina Highway. And if you're on Instagram, give them a follow at Royal Sports Pembina. All the information on some ideas for your white outfits and Jets gear, of course, and the latest merchandise drops and sale information as well. And I have to give a big shout out to our friends at Boston Pizza. They are ready to go with some pretty exciting things happening for the whiteout. More TVs, ice cold draft, and BP's delicious new playoff menu, including mouth-watering new winged ribs, the new deep fried pickle wedges, and a new triple playoff platter with cactus cuts, Thai chicken bites, and cheesy Bandera bread, and you can wash it all down with the new beer mosa. Every game on a BP with the big screens and the big sound. Spin the BP prize wheel and be entered to win tickets to a home playoff game. It all starts tomorrow. Boston Pizza, no better place to get together with your gang and watch the big game unless you're able to be there for the Winnipeg Jet home games. You can also order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, Reem, we do have to get to these series and the lines coming up in Coolbet, but I know you mentioned while we were talking to Hammer, we've got a little bit of Rick bonus from earlier today. Is that true?
I was just going through it. Nothing crazy. I think I got like 2 clips done. He was asked about Nikolai Ehlers, who did skate in a regular jersey after not skating on the weekend. And Cole Perfetti was in a red practice jersey, but there was a moment that had some holding their breath. He collided with Dylan DeMello in a drill, and they did send off Perfetti. So that was the notes from Mike McIntyre. And I guess I have, well, here, I'll put, want me to get to the clips here?
Yeah, we'll do it. And just while you get those ready, I'll remind everyone that you've got until 6 o'clock tonight to enter the bracket challenge as well as our playoff pool. We've got a very simple playoff box pool for anyone that was with us in the Masters pool. We did it over at officepools.com. It is up right there. If you go over, and I'm sure Rima's probably, do you have it in the description?
It's in the description, both those links.
There it is. Click on the thing. It's the first thing. Boom. Join our bracket challenge or join our fantasy box pool. If you're listening to the podcast before the games have started, jump in there. Go to our social media at Sports Talk WPG on Twitter. You'll see the links right there. Pick your team. Good luck. And we'll cook up something nice for the winners of both of those at the end of the postseason. So listen, we'll hear a little bit more, and we are going to go through these series and get the numbers for the lines coming up at Coolbet. And I actually have got a couple exclusives. Be interested to hear what you think about those. But yeah, Remo, why don't we quickly get into what we had from Bones today? And I do want to get to Adam Lowry as well, who had some pretty nice comments from the weekend of a guy that's going to be so important for the Winnipeg Jets when they get going on Tuesday.
Sure, and Gary just texted me. He's going to hop in any second now. I know the Golden Knights practice just wrapped where Mark Stone says that he is good and got kind of emotional about it. I know Gary will have a lot to say, but here's Rick Bonus from today. Ken Weeb asking, what's up with Nikolai Ehlers?
I'm staying with day to day.
Even though he was working with the first power play unit?
Yep, it's where we're staying.
Day to day, huh?
He says day to day, and Ken's like, if you couldn't hear, he said, even though you had him on the ice working on the first power play, that they're staying with day to day. I guess it's playoff mind games. Is that what we're going with here?
I have no idea the purpose of some of this stuff that coaches do all the time, but there's a lot of theater that goes into it and around. And if you're listening to it on the podcast, you can't really see the visual of it, but let's just say he said day to day with a big smile on his face. So Nikolai Ehlers will be playing, as we talked about with Hammer last segment. I can't imagine a scenario other than something bad happening in the next 30-odd hours that prevents Nikolai Ehlers from being out there with his teammates in game number 1 of this series.
Yeah, and a lot of talk about what Ehlers brings to the lineup. Here's Rick Bonus talking about Nikolai Ehlers' play as we get ready for Gary.
Well, he was playing really well, and the power play looked a lot better with him out there as well. It's funny how things go, because early in the year we had them out there together, and it just didn't. It was completely out of sync the whole time. Then we put them back together late in the season, and it was much better. So it would help the power play. We have obviously a couple different options we can do, and we practice those both today. But in a perfect world, Nick would be there tomorrow.
How did he look to you, Rick?
Oh, he's skating great, and he's shooting well. The concern would be, getting hit or getting caught in the wrong position. So we're just watching him. I mean, God, obviously he's a great skater. We all wish we could skate like that just one day in our lives. But anyways, he was shooting the puck well. We'll have to see how tomorrow looks.
What's Kevin's? Yeah.
Kevin is going to skate tomorrow morning. I would say we're counting on him playing, but he'll probably be a game time decision. But just talking to him now, he's feeling better. And if he feels strong enough tomorrow morning, he'll play.
All right, so there's a bit of an injury update just from the last hour or so in Las Vegas from head coach Rick Bowness. Some on Ehlers and some good news on Stenny. He's an important player on that fourth line, certainly when it comes to the faceoff circle, penalty killing. David Gustafsson was in his place today, but optimistic he'll skate tomorrow morning, and optimistic he'll be a player for the Winnipeg Jets in game number 1. All right, you knew we were going to do it. If it's Jets, Vegas Golden Knights in the playoffs, we got to bring in our guy Gary Lawless from Sin City, who's kind enough to join us on a very busy day, I'm sure, there around VGK HQ. Lawman, what is up? How are you? What's the vibe around the Knights and game 1 tomorrow night?
How you doing, Huss? Hi, Remo. It's quite exciting. Team missed the playoffs last year, and a lot of people doubted this team, this organization, and 51 wins later, they're the top seed in the West and the Pacific and ready to go. Mark Stone just spoke to the media downstairs and announced that he's going to play in game 1. So that's a bit of a shot in the arm for the Golden Knights. Laurent Brossoit will be the goalie, according to Bruce Cassidy. So everything's ready to go. The Jets are actually the ones with the intrigue, but sounds like Ehlers and Stenlund will be part of the lineup for the opening of the series as well.
We may as well get right to Stone. He is the captain of this hockey club. He is such an important player. He's been out for a long, long time. I kind of touched on this earlier on. I know there's a lot of people who think this is just some big master plan of cap circumvention, but he had back surgery. He's been dealing with this. He's been dealing with this for a long time. So the fact that he's been working towards trying to get here, how much can the Knights expect from Mark Stone? He'll be the spiritual leader. He'll be the heart and soul of the team. But I mean, going from 0 to 60 and entering into playoff hockey, I mean, it's no small task, even for a guy that's done what he's done there and throughout his NHL career.
Yeah, he's one of the smartest players in the NHL. He has elite hockey IQ. So I think that immediately, he'll pick up the pace and his anticipation and all those things. It'll take a period or two for him to get really going in that regard. He's never been fast. That's not his game. So, and the other things, timing, making a pass, receiving a pass, all those things, they'll take a little bit. But we got a skills coach here at Misha Donskoff, and he's been working with Misha for a while now. So, I don't know, Huss. After the first surgery, it took Mark Stone a while to get back to being Mark Stone. I think this will be this was a smaller situation with still back surgery. Better than anyone else what it takes to return from something like that. So it happened. The surgery was in January, so it's around 80 days now, 79, 80 days since he had it. I would expect. Listen, Vegas is deep. There's the people that are taking out of the lineup to put Mark Stone in are good players. They've got quite a roster. Bluger they added at the deadline. He's not in. Dorofeev has been a really good rookie for them. Paul Cotter's not in. There's legit players out of the lineup. So Mark Stone will have to add more than just being a spiritual leader, or it'll be a short-lived experiment.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Gary Lawless with the Vegas Golden Knights joining us before tomorrow's game 1 in the Western Conference playoffs. It's a juicy story with Laurent Brossoit going up against Connor Hellebuck, who, of course, they shared a crease with here in Winnipeg for a while. But I have to ask you about the team overall. Like, for people, who are not watching the late games and seeing how this team has done it, I mean, they were without their captain for half the season, and they had 4 different goalies play significant times in the net. They hit 50 wins. Bruce Cassidy had a massive impact the first year. How did all this come together, and how did they get through all that adversity that they dealt with throughout the year to be the team that was standing on top of the West at the end of 82?
Yeah, well, they don't give up very much. They're one of the best teams in the NHL at protecting the slot. So you have to really work hard to get to the blue ice where most of the goals are scored in the NHL. They don't if they play well in the neutral zone. There's a game against LA recently, a game against Minnesota, and a game against Seattle where they were really good in the neutral zone, and then they played their usual game in terms of protecting their own net, and they gave the high danger chances were 3, 4, and 5 in those games. They don't give up very much, so you have to work really hard to get to that part of the ice. That's the Bruce Cassidy. He'll let you get the puck into the offensive zone and circle around all you want. When you try and come to the center of the ice, to the middle of the ice, that's when they get stiff and they defend. And they've got an excellent blue line. It's one of the best in the NHL. So that's how they won games. They don't have a 40-goal scorer. They don't have a McDavid or a Scheifele or a Kyle Connor. They don't have that type of player at all. Eichel can be dynamic at times, but he's really fashioned his game this year on being an elite two-way center. You watch Jack Eichel play, he works really hard in the neutral zone, and he's often first back down low. That's his. It's kind of like the Steve Yzerman book, right? You can score 100 points and lose in the first round, or you can change your game and be a 70-point guy and try and win playoff games. And that's what Jack Eichel has done.
Hey, speaking of Eichel, this is his first chance to play in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I imagine this is a guy that's both incredibly excited for the opportunity, but also realizes that, what this team gave up to him. I mean, this is what it's all about, and this is when players are judged. What have you seen from him at the end of the season and just these last couple days, knowing that he's about to make his playoff debut?
Well, he was banged up for a bit and missed a few games down the stretch, and then played in the last game against Seattle. And the first period, you could tell that he'd missed some time, but he picked it up later on. And listen, I've had a tremendous experience with Jack. He's been a lot of fun to deal with. You have to hang around to talk to him because he's usually the last guy off the ice. He likes to practice, likes to work on the skills in his game. He puts the time and the work in. But then when he does get to the dressing room, if you want to talk hockey with him or whatever, he's been very, very amenable to that, really open and lots of fun to be around. And he's obviously very excited to be part of a team that thinks it's got the chance to go deep. And Jack would like nothing more than to be part of that kind of a run.
Well, Gary, I was hoping we might have the opportunity to do this heading into the first round of the playoffs. It is 5 years since the first HNL series where Vegas won the first time. How are you? How are the team?
It's not an HNL series.
Well, it kind of is. It kind of is, Gary. But let me ask you this: how are you?
Are you and I going to play street hockey on Hargrave? Is that how it's going to be decided?
You know what? If that's need to break a tie for sure. But listen, how's the vibe around the team knowing that, they're the number one team in the Western Conference and massive, overwhelming favorites to just blow through this first round and move on through the rest of the playoffs?
No, that's the funny thing. No one's picking them to win. I listened to the Illegal Curve on the weekend. They almost hung up on Eric Tehatrick when he suggested that Vegas was going to win the series. It's been
around here.
Listen.
I did see ESPN 23 of 26 of the Knights going through, so it's obvious. Why are we even playing the games?
Exactly, yeah. There's been a lot of talk about how the Jets are going to ride Connor Hellebuck to victory, and he's obviously a huge storyline in this series. So I expect it to be a great series, really competitive, and we're going to find out which one of these teams is the better. Predictions are useless. They're absolutely useless. No one has any idea who's going to win this series. We don't know what Winnipeg is going to look like in a playoff game, and we don't know what Vegas is going to look like in a playoff game. So until you got to beat the other team 4 times. It's about the matchup, and we have no idea what that looks like until they start to play.
Well, you know what's funny? We probably will spend all our time talking about the key players in the series and the top couple lines and that. I wouldn't be surprised if, there are some very, very close games in this series that, could be determined by one play, one mistake either way. And I wouldn't be surprised, much like what happened 5 years ago, where it's third and fourth liners that all of a sudden come and have their moment in the sun and are the guys we're talking about after the game, even though maybe they weren't getting the same sort of ice time. I mean, both of these teams have reasons, I think, to have some confidence going into this, and it should be a great, great series. Give us a quick vibe check on the city and the fan base going into the game tomorrow night. I imagine, missing the playoffs last year, it'll be a full house and be ready to go with that signature Vegas energy for a big one.
Yeah, you can't get a ticket. I just tried to get a ticket for someone that we do business with, and the ticketing department laughed at me. So it's all the people that Facebook messaged me that I don't really know. The app is called AXS. Like it's people that I haven't spoken to in like 7 years. Hey, Gary.
What's up?
I know it's a long shot, but I'm like, yeah, it's a real long shot, pal. Give me a break. However, we would find a press pass for you, Huss.
Well, I'll tell you what. I had just gotten back from Toronto last night. The timing of it didn't work.
You went to eat poutine rather than cover in Toronto, rather than cover a hockey series in Vegas. You get a fail.
We didn't even know it was a series in Vegas until halfway through my time in TO. What I should have done was just not taken the return flight and gone straight from there to Vegas. Hopefully
that's the first smart thing you've said on this segment.
Hopefully it'll be a long series and that there will be an opportunity to get back there. Either way, I'll look forward to seeing you for games 3 and 4 here in Winnipeg. I was going to wish you good luck, but I'll do that if you manage to get through the first round, and we'll go from there. It should be a good one, man. Thanks for doing this, though, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here.
All right, pal. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Remo.
Good stuff. There is Gary Lawless. Man, listen, I knew it was going to be fun talking to G about this series and the fact that we're getting this again after, I know a lot of people, 5 years after the fact of a really heartbreaking loss for the Jets in the conference finals. To get a chance to go up against this team again. And listen, they won first place in the Western Conference for a reason. That is a deep team. It's a very well-coached team. But at the same time, like we've said, there's nothing guaranteed come playoff hockey. And the Winnipeg Jets are going to see what they can do to maybe spoil the party in Sin City beginning tomorrow night. Thanks again to Gary for coming on. And maybe we'll catch up again with him a little bit later on in the series. Hey, are you ready for your playoff games? I mean, for tomorrow night, for Thursday night, have you popped by Little Brown Jug and grabbed some of the awesome new generic lager? It's your basic lager, just better. Impressively standard, in the best way, light and clean to taste with a mellow flavor and crisp finish. Now, Manitoba can support local without having to move away from the domestic taste they've come to expect with a light beer. It's available in 6-packs or by the can through the tap room or through vendors, and available in 8-packs at liquor marts, and around June will be available in the liquor marts in the single can. Had a couple last night when I got back from Toronto. Absolutely delicious. I mean, I'll always love the 1919, but I think generic is going to be my new go-to from Little Brown Jug, certainly as we get into the summer. Shout out to Matty Fitzpatrick. Big win at the RBC Heritage on tour on the weekend. Kind of a down week for the PGA Tour, the Zurich Classic. Liv going to do their Australian tour. I think that'll be big for that tour as well. But we're just getting ready to get back on the courses around here. And, of course, our friends at Breezy Bend, who bring our golf reports all season long, also ready for the upcoming year. Breezy's one of Manitoba's top private clubs with a championship course, top-notch practice facilities, and the best 19th hole around on their beautiful course-side patio. Great men's, ladies, and junior programs. Breezy's the perfect long-term golfing home for you and your family. Find out more at breezybend.ca or give our pal Corey Johnson, the GM, a call at the clubhouse for more information on becoming a member. And as the hot take alarm goes off again, testing a few things at HQ today. Got to give a big shout out to our friends Pitt, Pat, and the great team over at Aikens Lake. Cannot wait to get out there at some point this summer. Maybe that'll be my bet with Gary. Gary gets to come to Aikens with me, or I can do something with him out in Vegas if the Winnipeg Jets win. Bottom line is it's an unbelievable friends and family trip destination, and also an incredible thing to do, as a corporate trip with maybe your top customers or some people that you've been Zooming with for a while. No better way to reconnect than hours in a boat with expert guides in the paradise that is Aikens Lake. Find out more, aikenslake.com. And if you're looking for a gig this summer, still looking for a few serving and guide jobs to fill. So if you're a university student looking to spend the summer in paradise, send an email to pitt@aikenslake.com. All right, let's get Remo back in here. Guys, Reem, I've been looking forward to doing this, and I wasn't able to do it last week, of course, because the rules are different in Ontario and Manitoba, but we have our lines for the upcoming series, all 8 of them, over at Coolbet. I've got a couple of exclusives locked and loaded as well for the first round of the playoffs. And, of course, another reminder quickly, if you just popped in, bracket challenge and player box pool, both there in the description. Make sure you get in before the contest close, coming up at the bottom of when the puck drops tonight at 6 p.m. Games tonight. We'll get to the series in a second. But tonight's odds over at Coolbet: Islanders plus 140 in Carolina to take on the Canes. Canes at minus 165. The Bruins minus 213 at home against the Panthers at plus 178. The Dallas Stars minus 151 favorites against the Minnesota Wild at plus 128. And the Kings are pretty significant underdog, actually, plus 159 against the high-octane, high-powered Edmonton Oilers. Now, as far as the cup odds before the playoffs begin, the Bruins are the favorite at plus 340. The Oilers are next at 6-1. They have now passed the Colorado Avalanche. That's the first time in, I think all season really, that Edmonton's now had a lower number than Colorado. The Toronto Maple Leafs, Colorado's plus 675. Leafs at 10-1. Canes at 11-1. Jersey 12-1. Rangers 14-1. Vegas 14-1. Dallas 16. Lightning 17. You've got the LA Kings at 25-1, along with the Minnesota Wild. The Panthers at 27-1, which is amazing considering they're playing Bruins in the first round. And you got to wait till 40-1 for the Winnipeg Jets and Seattle Kraken. And the New York Islanders, the longest shot on the board at plus 450. As far as series prices go, starting off with the Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights, Vegas is minus 154. And Winnipeg is plus 130, which is pretty much the exact same odds they've got for the Tampa Bay and Leafs series, although that is switched now. I guess a lot of this happens every year. This is the Leafs year. Can you believe this, Reem? The Leafs are now a minus 172 favorite, and the Tampa Bay Lightning a plus 145, a much bigger underdog by the bookies right now than the Winnipeg Jets are to beat Vegas.
Yeah, the Leafs. Man, I'm kind of getting sucked here into this Leafs hype train. Someone asked me like who my cup picks was, and I was like, reluctantly said, I think Leafs. Like just because I don't like picking the absolute favorite in Boston. Although Boston's got this flu bug, and there's some question marks about their lineup for tonight. And I've heard Florida could be a tough matchup for them. So, look, I think even if you don't like gambling here, I think it's worth looking at what the odds are so you can manage your own expectations, because I put out a poll, and 83% of the people in our chat, and I know this is Winnipeg Sports Talk, but 83% of the people who've answered the poll think the Winnipeg Jets are going to win the series. However, you look at those numbers we just mentioned, they give the Jets, like 40, what is that, implied odds of like 40-something%? I have to put it into a calculator. So people here expecting a Jets win, although Vegas odds, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets are an underdog, but they're not a massive underdog. And when you look at some of the models, the money pucks, the Micah Blake McCurdy,
I saw, like 50-50.
It's basically pick 'em. It's basically a pick 'em. Hellebuck will have a big part of that. I mean, if he was out, I'm sure that would be a far bigger gap between the two teams, but he's a huge part of it. I mean, just to put it into perspective, I mean, the Oilers are a minus 263 series favorite against the LA Kings. LA at plus 217. And listen, I get why they are real, and they have been as good as the Bruins have been since basically the 1st of January. However, I have a hard time counting out LA the way a lot of people are in this first round. I think this is going to be a grind for Edmonton if they're going to get through the Kings.
Yeah, that's if you had to ask me what series am I looking forward to, it is definitely that. There's so much hype on Edmonton, McDavid playing the best of anyone, best season we've seen in, 20 or 18 years, like since 95, 96. They have all this scoring. They haven't got it done in the playoffs as far as getting to a Stanley Cup final. And LA played them really tough last year. They took them to 7 games. The Deneau signing was after the Montreal went to the final. I mean, that signing has been huge for LA.
They got Fiala now this year.
Exactly, Fiala and Byfield is playing, a role with them. Drew Doughty having this resurgence this year. He's healthy. I think I've watched a lot of their games. I think the Kings, they play physical, they play tough. They're going to try to push Edmonton around. We'll have to see what Edmonton answers back. So I think LA is going to push them to 6 or 7. But Edmonton, they've been the top team here since the deadline. Getting Matthias Ekholm's been huge for them.
And speaking of, there was so much hype around the big acquisitions in the East and the big swings. When you look at some of the teams that are playing right now in the West, I mean, the 2 acquisitions that Cheveldayoff got for the Jets have been massive in Niederreiter and Nemetsnikov, and at the price, arguably 2 of the best value acquisitions. I mean, Vegas has had Barbashev, Amadio, some guys that have really contributed as well. And the Ekholm ad, I believe they're 17-2-1 since Ekholm was acquired, and he has been the perfect addition to Edmonton. So that's the series. But again, a lot of people thinking that the Oilers are going to be rolling, and the odds tell you as much. Dallas and Minnesota. Dallas is minus 161. The Minnesota Wild plus 135. And Avalanche, a big favorite against the Kraken, certainly with that pedigree, minus 312 for Colorado, plus 250 for Seattle. The Canes, minus 208 in their series. Islanders, plus 175. Antti Ranta getting the start tonight for the Canes, by the way. And then, as we mentioned, the Boston Bruins at minus 345. The Panthers, plus 275. In the chat, here's another why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp. Who's the upset? And let's say, I know a lot of people are really, fired up about the Jets. Let's just take the Jets out of the scenario for a minute. Who is the team that's going to pull the upset in round 1? Is it Tampa, Florida, the Islanders, the New York Rangers? Actually, I guess that's the one that we didn't hit before. That's the closest number of any of the series in the first round. Minus 123 for Jersey and plus 105 for the Rangers. And to be honest, Remo, I'm having a hard time going against the Rangers. I really like Jersey and what they've done. That's a very young team without a lot of experience. And the one thing in such a close matchup that you have to give the credit to, the nod to, is the Rangers, because they've got Ilya Shesterkin in net, and the New Jersey Devils don't.
Yeah, goal. A lot of like what we're saying here with Hellebuck versus Brossoit or whoever Vegas has in goal. You're going with Hellebuck and Shesterkin. He's going to be the goalie. You pick over Vitek Vanacek or whoever goes for New Jersey. So. New Jersey, they've been pretty elite. Jack Hughes, and I don't know if he gets talked about enough how great he is. And I took in my pool last night, Jesper Bratt lasted to one of the final rounds. I was shocked. He's a top player for them. So, New Jersey, they're a very strong team, and I know a lot of people are picking New Jersey as a favorite. But yeah, I think there's a lot of love there for the Rangers, getting Patrick Kane. Jacob Trouba he's a playoff performer. We saw it here in 2018. A lot of talk about 2018. And who else did they get? We had Tarasenko. He's an offense guy. So we'll see how it goes for the Rangers. But that is a great series. It's funny. You mentioned Seattle, Colorado. If I had to mention one team that has no chance of getting out of the first round, I'm going with Seattle. And that, maybe they do end up with the upset. But I think Colorado's a really tough matchup. I know Makar did play in the last game. I'll have to see about his health. As far as an upset, I saw some, the sexy upset pick, like the one everyone's picking right now is the Islanders over Carolina. Carolina hasn't been able to score since Svechnikov got hurt. They haven't played well down the stretch. I'm shocked to see Antti Ranta's in goal. They were rotating with him and Anderson. I thought Anderson was the guy. We talked to Trip Tracy like a month ago. He said Anderson was their guy, and they also have Kochetkov, who's been great when called up, and he's great with the Wolves. So I don't know. I'm shocked Ranta is in. They're still a favorite, though. And in the pool I was in, no one was grabbing Carolina. So I took basically their whole lineup. So I'm on Carolina, but I don't know if I have confidence if they can't score. I know I'm going to the buffet here. Florida as well. We'll have to see with this Bruins lineup. We're hearing illness, and they haven't really confirmed. There was no line rushes. I mean, what a terrible time to have illness. And we want more details. They're like throwing up, the toilets all clogged. Like what kind of illness are we talking here?
You're not getting any of that. You're not getting any of that this year. I will say this: one of these top teams is going to lose in the first round, and it could be Boston, Carolina. I guess makes sense. Edmonton, Colorado, Vegas. It won't all be chalk. It will not all be chalk. So we'll see what happens. But hey, I do want to let you know I got a couple exclusives too put together. I got one in the series and one in the action tonight. The partner parlay for the series, 3 series beginning tomorrow. So people had an extra day to get in on it. But we're going to ride with the Jets. We're going to ride with the Leafs and the New York Rangers. Those 3 teams to win their series, you got to juice up to plus 745. That's the series exclusive I've set up. And then for tonight, a plus 335 special, if you want to ride with me on this one. Dallas Stars to win. Carolina and the Islanders under 6.5 goals. And Edmonton and the LA Kings over 5.5 goals. So they gave us a nice number on that one at plus 335. If you want to jump on those, get to the exclusive section. And if you haven't played a Coolbet before, it's a great time to get in. Use the promo code WST when you're making your first deposit, and they will give you a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit.
Yeah, those are the picks. There are a couple games. Who are the games tonight? Islanders, Carolina. I like that going the under. I think it's going to be low scoring with Sorokin mixed with the Carolina's inability to score. We'll see about the Islanders. Yeah, Boston, Florida tonight. Dallas, Minnesota. Yeah, I like Dallas. I'll go with you in that series. Minnesota, I mean, bet against them to get out of the first round every year. And
I'm just anti-Wild ever since last week. I'm still pissed off about all that nonsense at the end. So I'm fading the Wild going into the playoffs. And at the end, I do think it's going to be a great series one way or the other. But for the same reason why I've got a lot of optimism about the Jets with Connor Hellebuck. To me, Jake Ottinger's a step above the guys that Minnesota have. And as Jesse told us last week, I mean, it sort of seems like Dean Evason's going to give both goalies an opportunity to play on the playoffs. So if you got 2 starting goalies, you don't have one, if you know what I'm saying. We know who the guy is in Dallas, and that's Jake Ottinger.
Yeah, and Minnesota's going with Gustafsson tonight. Michael Russo reporting that. So will Marc-Andre Fleury get some games? I don't know if that's a recipe for
Evason's
success.
going to do the old Bob Murdoch.
Edmonton
going to rotate goalies. Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota, yeah. Oh, Evason. Sorry, I thought you said Evason. I thought you said Edmonton. It sounds
no.
Dean Evason, but yeah, I don't think rotating is good. Gustafsson, he's earned it. He's been awesome in the second half of the year here. And sorry, I kind of feel bad for Marc-Andre Fleury. He go from Vegas, and then now you're they pick Lehner over you, which was an L for Vegas, and now you're in Minnesota. You think you're going to be the guy after they trade away Cam Talbot, but the guy they got back, no one saw this coming. Where Gustafsson, one of the top in the league. So, but again, Minnesota, they had the Joel Eriksson Ek injury. I know Matt Boldy is like the hottest player in the league right now, but they never advanced out of the first round. Their playoff failure list has been so long, Hassan. I do like Dallas here. Robo, one of the best players in the league. So, plus the goalie, I'll go with Dallas.
I got a draft tonight. I'm going to be jumping on Dallas, and I'll say this: I actually like Dallas to come out of the Central. I think they're the team that can beat Colorado on that side of things. If we assume that Colorado is going to get through Seattle, should be a great series. That is for sure. And obviously, the winner of Winnipeg and Vegas will take on the winner of LA and Edmonton. And we'll see that one tonight when things get going. Again, 6 o'clock, it's the Canes and the Islanders. 6:30, Panthers, Bruins. 8:30, Wild, Dallas. And then 9 p.m., Kings and Oilers. And, for everyone that was bent about the start times, like Dallas and Minnesota are just playing in the Central Division, and they're getting 8:30 start times. So, the Jets are playing a West Coast team. I don't think we should be surprised. And as I said, gives you a little extra time to get extra ready for puck drop.
Well, for me personally, I love, I get to put the kids to bed. I can go to the game here. I can watch it alone. Later on, I'm very pumped. I love West Coast times, which is why I'm dialed in on this LA Edmonton series. But look, we know it's all for TV. They want to stagger the start time, so they're putting, Dallas gets in. I see people blaming Sportsnet. It's an NHL thing. Although Charles Barkley, I don't know if you saw yesterday, he went off on NBA scheduling because they scheduled Denver home game for 8:30 Denver time, which seems strange. So I'm not following the NBA too closely, but their playoffs underway. I did want to look this up because we were talking I was talking with some friends over the weekend, like what's Minnesota's playoff history? Like, have they ever gone that far? I said the farthest they went was the conference finals in 2002-03. But look how many straight years they haven't got out of the first round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus a qualifying round. I mean, that's 7 straight playoffs here where they haven't advanced past the first round. And 1 year they didn't make the playoffs in 18-19. So not a lot of playoff success. I mean, they're great at getting to the playoffs, just not winning in them.
Yeah, no, it is a good point. But that should be a great series. I think we knew that the 2-3 series in the Central and the 2-3 series in the Pacific were going to be great. And I think this Jets Vegas series is shaping up to be a pretty good one as well. All right, hey, before we finish up the program.
Yeah, well, K&R are going on at 3:30. I don't know if you want to just go until then. I got to make our bracket, our predictions. We got some more clips. We can rock, or we can whatever you want to do here.
Well, first things first, I'm going to pick you know what? Matthew Jansen actually was that comment that I had earlier today. We're going to be just picking a good chat comment for a $25 Boston Pizza gift card throughout this week as we get ready for the whiteout. Shout out to our friends at Boston Pizza. Whoever it was on Friday that won, I was obviously in Toronto. I'll send you an email and just find out which is your closest BP that you can pick up from. But Matthew Jansen, loved your comment earlier about puck management and how important it's going to be. Send us an email, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com, and let me know which is the closest BP for you to pop by and pick up a $25 gift card. Don't forget, whiteout ready at Boston Pizza for tomorrow. So Matthew Jansen, great comment today. Well, listen, Remo, I don't mind doing a few more clips. I mean, we do have it. Sure. I also kind of want to get this podcast up. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to be excited to listen on the audio side. But there is a little bit of Adam Lowry, and we did promise people that Adam Lowry, we'd hear from him. Actually, you want to do the 2 Morrissey clips, and then we'll get into Lowry?
Yeah, we can do that. And I see people asking, we're talking about making predictions and brackets, and you and I will unveil our final predictions at the end of the show because everyone's dying to know them. But check the description of this video. There's 2 links there. Sign up for our bracket challenge group. We got a lot of people in there already, in the bracket challenge. And there's also just a box pool for fantasy on Office Pools, just something fun. There's a lot of spots. Hey, we almost got 200 people on our bracket challenge. That's pretty awesome. And I know there's a lot in that box pool. Just fill out the players, and we'll have some WST stuff for the winners. But yeah, we got this Josh Morrissey, and it's before the playoffs. They got some time, so everyone's taking turns speaking here.
Yeah, fire alarm. What the?
Do you want to clarify for people who may not understand what's happening with this bell?
Yeah. So for whatever reason, today is a fire alarm testing day around Hussville, and over the course of today's show, there's been about 6 blasts. And the first time you can kind of joke, oh, a hot take alarm. Now it's just getting a little annoying, including the guys that came in the middle of the show to do the in-suite test as well. But hey, it's playoffs. You just gotta grind through whatever they throw at you, and that's basically exactly what we're doing here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But yeah, okay. Listen, we can kill a bit of time before KNR, I guess. Are they for sure going to be on there at that time, ready to go?
Well,
or
we can go for a couple more minutes, and I'll have the podcast up quickly. But yeah, Ken said 3:30. Like, we're not going later than that, but it's set to redirect everyone to the KNR. So hang around here. You can go join Kenny and Rennie's playoff preview. I know Ken is in Vegas. Rennie is also there. He'll be on TV. We haven't really talked about the broadcast crew. I was very curious who it was going to be. It is John Bartlett, who did a lot of the Jets games in the homestand and Alaska Wentz, and Gary Galley is the analyst. And I was looking at on the U.S. side, because it's on ESPN 2 for game 1. And I always like to look who's coming to Winnipeg, because these people don't usually come here. So tomorrow night, it's Kevin Weeks is doing it, and Kevin Weeks is doing tonight's game for ESPN, Oilers Kings, and then he's going to Vegas to do tomorrow's game. So Kevin Weeks is a busy guy. Roxy Bernstein is doing the play-by-play on ESPN. I haven't seen TBS because TNT has it on TBS. I'm curious who's doing. So we'll know who's coming here, Huss, later on when they release it.
Hey, can I just, you mentioned TBS.
Mm.
I was watching the hoops last night after the women's hockey game. Heartbreaker for our Canadian women. Oh, those penalties late in the third period were not ideal, and the States ended up coming back and winning. But I was watching the halftime panel in the T-Wolves Nuggets game.
Yeah.
And it's Kenny Smith, Ernie Johnson, Shaq, and Charles Barkley. That, I think, is the most entertaining panel in sports broadcasting history. And I don't really think there's anything close. And I know that the ESPN guys have been trying to get that way with Biz, I guess. And yeah, there's been some good things from what I've seen. We don't get to see a lot of it here north of the border. But I got thinking, I mean, who would be the perfect setup of, how could you possibly get something close to the chemistry and fun that those guys have with the entertainment that they bring, regardless of who's playing in the world of hockey? I mean, I think BX is smart enough and funny enough that he could be a real good player like that. But, part of the problem is that so much of the hockey culture, like the way these guys are brought up, is not to have outlandish takes or individual personality and all that stuff. I mean, when you think about the stars of hockey compared to things like basketball. But my God, I was falling off my chair laughing at those guys. They are so damn funny, and they do not protect anybody. I mean, and I guess, when you're Hall of Fame players like they are, or at least Shaq and Charles, I mean, you don't really care who you're talking about because you've got the resume to back up anything that you say. But I just enjoyed that so much, and it got me thinking about kind of what we get on a regular basis and how much better it would be if we could kind of get a few more true characters and let them go. Like, I don't know if Messier or Chelios has been those guys for the ESPN stuff.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of the U.S. stuff. Biz is on TNT, was Rick Tocchet until he got hired, and they have Gretzky occasionally. I don't think it's equaled the NBA, but yeah, those are Hall of Fame players giving their thoughts, and a lot of laughs with that team. Also, Shaq and Barkley. ESPN. So the ESPN is Arda Ocal is doing a lot of hosting with Chelios and Messier, and now PK Subban is on there quite a bit, and I'm curious how that's gonna go. So
PK would seem, I haven't seen him, but he would seem like he would have the personality and certainly the background that if you got some other like-minded guys to go in there and really sort of have fun and show their personality, he would be right there.
I don't want to diss anyone who's on our panel, but you watch the panels in the States and they have Gretzky, they have Messi, they have Chelios, and no offense to anyone here, but they're not we're not getting Hall of Fame players on the Sportsnet national panel. So it is kind of nice to get that perspective. Although I really do like, Kevin Bieksa and Kelly Rudy and what those guys bring. But when ESPN got the contract, I was curious what they're going to do. Now we don't really get that coverage here. Maybe occasionally, or you can go online. One coverage we are starting to get, actually, Sportsnet, since they canceled Tim and Friends, they are airing 2 hours of NHL Now coverage. I saw Jackie Redmond tweet out.
Yeah, Jackie back on the tube north of the border.
We don't get NHL Network, but I've watched it when in the U.S. It is excellent. Post-game, they also do great post-game, and we are missing out. And I guess Sportsnet doesn't want to let NHL Network in Canada because Bell and Rogers and probably they're all fighting about, taking away from their own sports.
I'm sure
and
that was
hockey
part of
coverage.
their deal. We're going to buy a complete monopoly on the league for 11 or 12 years in this country. And by the way, all that other great stuff that, is available elsewhere, it's banned. The only thing we can watch is Sportsnet.
Well, now they don't want to. Well, now they can Tim and Sid, I guess, don't want to pay to make their own content, so they're just lifting it from NHL Network, which I think is good because we're missing out on that content. But
hey, I'll take it.
So that's in the afternoon there. So I'll shut up because we got to play this Lowry. What do you want to hear, Morrissey? And we can
let's just do a quick one for Morrissey, the 27 on making the playoffs this year after missing last year, and then we'll get a couple of Lowry and Schmidt before we finish up.
I think we really rallied in the offseason to come in with the right mindset, new staff, and everything else, and obviously rode the high of the first 40, 50 games, and then we faced the adversity of two and a half months of hearing about it every day and feeling the pressure and the struggles that we went through. So finding a way to climb out of that and get into the playoffs, I think we've handled a lot of that this year. Every team goes through it, but we feel like we've come out of it at the right time, and we believe in our group. We've believed in it all year, and I think we're firing on all cylinders and ready to go.
All right, there is Josh Morrissey. I mean, one of two players that I think it's almost unanimously assumed that will be the next captain of the Winnipeg Jets, either Josh Morrissey or Adam Lowry, who have both shown their worth and their leadership values throughout the season for the Winnipeg Jets. Let's hear from Lowry right now. And we'll just quickly let's play 29. I'm interested to hear this one. Is Lowry talking about takeaways from the 2018 series with Vegas then can hopefully help the Winnipeg Jets have a better result against the same team this year, albeit 5 years later?
Yeah, I think it's more the lessons as opposed to the carryover. They've got a lot of new faces on that team, and we've gone through the playoff series since then. So, I don't think there's any lingering feelings from that one. Obviously, you want to make it as far as you can in the playoffs, so that's enough motivation.
All right, there's Adam Lowry, and the unique point to this series that is a rematch of the conference final 5 years ago. But Adam Lowry spoke about a number of issues for the club going into this series, shutting down Jack Eichel, but he also talked about the backbone of the Winnipeg Jets, Connor Hellebuck, and the confidence that he's inspired in his Winnipeg Jets teammates.
Yeah, I think you look at the amount of games he played, I think he deserves consideration for third. Obviously, Connor McDavid's going to run away with that one, but I think what Helly means to our team, he definitely should be in that conversation. Should be in the conversation for the Vezina. Anytime you have one of the best goalies in the world, you have a chance to win every night. And fortunately, he's in this room, and some nights we took off and. We're lucky Helly was there and was able to get the win. And I think coming down the stretch, he played magnificent. He gave us a chance to win every night, and chance in tight games where the offense was struggling a little bit or whatever. He gave us the opportunity to find our game, and I think the way our team's looked over the last couple of weeks, we really like where we're at, and Helly kind of fits that mold and allowed us to kind of rediscover our game again.
All right, there's Adam Lowry on Connor Hellebuck and the importance that he has had to the Winnipeg Jets. One of the, of course, he'll be going up against his old battery mate, Laurent Brossoit, in the first round. But go to 33. Lowry was absolutely a catalyst in turning things around when the Jets needed it the most. I mean, he was brilliant, breaking that 35-game goal-scoring streak and then scoring a number of huge goals for the Winnipeg Jets and having his line really, really step up. Lowry talked about their play coming into this series.
I think we have a lot of belief in this group and, in our ability kind of when we play up to our capabilities. So, I think we can beat any team in this league, and we think, with the makeup of our roster, with the depth, the guys we got on the back end, and with Helly and Net, we like our chances against whoever we play. So, we have some confidence in our group, and now it's about kind of going out and continuing that, stretch of hockey we just had, for game one.
All right, so there's Adam Lowry. Yeah, Lowry's actually very, very thoughtful and had some really good ones. We've got to get to Nate Schmidt as well. But Lowry talked about just the team's 4 lines that have sort of been solidified since the move of Mark Scheifele to the wing, the Metsnikov to line 2, Ehlers coming back, and which meant Nito Niederreiter playing alongside Adam Lowry. Here's Lowry on his thoughts about the way the forward lines are looking and feeling coming into this series in game 1.
Well, I think they give you different looks. Obviously, with Doobie, Scheif, and KC, that's a lot of offense, a lot of skill, but different skill sets there. And then with Vladdy, Wheels, and Fly, they come through the neutral zone extremely well. They're so good at making cross-seam plays and generating offense off like that. And then with our line and Stenner's line, we're bigger, we're more off the cycle and heavier lines. But I think with our forwards, especially up front, sometimes we forget how big we are, how heavy we can be. It's not necessarily running guys through the boards, but just wearing teams down on the cycle, on the forecheck and in their way. I think that's one of the strengths is, we're a big, heavy team to play against, and, our back ends move the puck extremely well. And, I think, especially of late, those games where we started to really take over in the second period, it was the neutral zone play, the quick ups and kind of the transition game that really fed into that.
All right, Adam Lowry, one of the leaders of the Winnipeg Jets, and one more from Lowry on, getting back into the playoffs, playing at Canada Life Centre, and doing it in front of fans in the famous whiteout.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think that's where playing in Winnipeg, we're fortunate with the history of the whiteout and kind of seeing all the different outfits, seeing how much fun the fans have, getting behind us and with their support, and we've certainly missed it. I think we went on to the second round and weren't able to have any fans, against Montreal, and I think that's one of the huge advantages we have here. It's a smaller rink. The fans feel like they're on top of you, and they're relentless. And seeing videos of the street party and kind of the memories from that 2017-18 run kind of gives me chills. So really looking forward to it. We're really looking forward to having them back in the building, and seeing some of these outfits, seeing the creativity, and seeing our fans really enjoying themselves.
All right, great stuff from Adam Lowry. We'll have some more from the Winnipeg Jets tomorrow. We'll have more on we'll have Nate Schmidt for you tomorrow on the program as well. All right, so we actually are going to kind of take you right over to a little playoff preview from KNR. But before we go, Remo, do you have any predictions for the playoffs before they get going tonight that you would like to drop on us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk? Official WST predictions.
I got to make my bracket, which I have to fill out and put in, but I think I'm going with this. Does not feel good writing this in on my bracket, but I have my Stanley Cup final as I'm saying it as the Oilers versus the Leafs.
Whoa, all Canadian final?
And I'm taking the Oilers. Someone asked me on the weekend, like, what do you think? And that's what came to mind, like the first thing. So that is what I'm going with. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. I actually hope the Kings upset the Oilers, but I don't think you can bet against Connor McDavid, and I think Stuart Skinner is solid in goal. So I'm going with them. We'll see.
What about a Jets Vegas prediction?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to say because then people are gonna get mad. But fine. I'll just say. Should I say Jets in 7 here?
Say whatever you think. Say whatever you think. I mean, hey, listen. As Gary said, predictions don't mean anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's zero chance that I'd be picking Vegas. I mean, it could be. I mean, I legitimately do think this series is a toss-up. So if you're asking me to say who's going to win, obviously I'll say the Jets. But I really think they could go either way. I think this is going to be a series that goes 6 or 7 for sure. Although I kind of think the Jets' path to winning is to win it in 6. I think, and we've seen this before with road teams, I mean, get one of the first 2 and then come back and hold serve in front of your home crowd at home. And if the Jets can get one of the first 2, I think they've got a really, really good chance to win this series. If they can't, then you're down 2-0. I mean, that becomes a real uphill battle, having to win 4 of the next 5 games. So these next 2 games obviously are going to be incredibly crucial and a great start. I will say this, I'm going to take the Rangers in that series against Jersey. I like Shesterkin. I like the ads that they made, and I think Jersey's maybe a little ahead of schedule. I think this will be a big learning moment for them. But I do think that the Rangers have what it takes to get through in that one. I love the Dallas Stars in that series. And I do think the Leafs finally win a series. I'm not as geeked on them making it all the way to the final, but I think they win this. And I mean, the Boston Bruins should be in the Stanley Cup final, but that's why they play the games. And I don't even think it's going to be easy for them to come out of this first round against the Florida Panthers. I could see them losing tonight in game 1, especially with what they're dealing with. So enough of that. It is all about 2.5 hours now. Don't forget, you've got 2.5 hours to get your bracket in and get your picks for the box pool. Links are right in the description of Winnipeg Sports Talk of our episode today. So jump on that, include yourself. Good luck to everyone. Totally free to enter, and great to see so many people with the excitement. Congratulations to everyone that got tickets for the games, tickets for the whiteout parties. We got to wait till Saturday to get this party going on here in Winnipeg, but it is on tomorrow. We'll be all over it. We'll have Mike McIntyre join us from Vegas. More on the Knights, and of course, everything from tonight's action in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And don't forget, big game for the Winnipeg Ice on the road tonight as their crucial game 3 in their series, tied 1-1 after a split on a home ice this weekend. Big thanks to everyone that's been with us. Huge numbers. I don't think that's going to change as we go through the rest of these next couple weeks and hopefully beyond in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Winnipeg Jets. Subscribe if you haven't. Totally free. Just hit that red subscribe button. We'll be back here tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central on our first playoff game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks again to the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day, and all of you for making us a part of yours. Enjoy night 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow for Jets Vegas game number 1, game day edition of WST.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.